The night is like ink, shrouding this shiny city. Liu Wei pushed open the glass door of the cafe, and the doorbell jingled, just like the lingering alarm bell in his heart. The store was filled with the strong aroma of coffee, mixed with the smell of moist earth after the rain. He took a deep breath, trying to suppress the long-lost sultry heat in his chest. When his childhood friend Li Ming called, his voice trembled like fallen leaves in the autumn wind. "Viagra, my dad, he was shot. The police said it was an accident, but I don't believe it. You are a detective, help me check." Liu Wei froze on the spot, and the coffee cup in his hand almost slipped. He and Li Ming played shuttlecock together in the old alley since childhood, chasing shadows in the sunset. At that time, Li Ming's father was a well-known city councilor, and he always bought them candied haws with a smile. But now, that warm smile turned into a corpse lying in the morgue. Liu Wei rubbed his eyebrows and hesitated for a moment. "I am just a young detective who has just debuted a few years ago. If I take on such a political assassination case, wouldn't I be asking for trouble?" But Li Ming's choked voice echoed in his ears. "He was still thinking of you before he died, saying that you were smart and could find out the truth." "Okay," I picked up. Liu Wei hung up the phone, his eyes changing from confusion to determination. Hesitant? That was just my past self. Now, he has to take the initiative and seek justice for that childhood promise. Early the next morning, Liu Wei came to the crime scene, the underground parking lot of a high-end office building in the city center. The air was filled with the mixed smell of engine oil and blood, the cordon was tightly tightened, and a few police officers lazily smoked and chatted. Liu Wei showed off his private detective license and squeezed into the crowd. The scene has been cordoned off by the police, but pressure from the top has delayed the investigation, and the evidence is scattered like paper blown by the wind. He knelt down, put on his gloves, and scanned the ground like a hawk. The bullet casing rolled into the corner, shining coldly. Liu Wei picked one up and looked at it carefully. The 9mm caliber ballistic trajectory was shot out from behind the pillar on the east side, directly hitting Congressman Li's heart. There were tiny scratches on the pillar, like the spark marks left by a bullet grazing it. He stood up and walked along the track, his footsteps echoing slightly on the cement floor. "What about surveillance cameras?" "The blind spot on the east side is exactly the blind spot." Liu Wei's heartbeat accelerated. This was not a random shooting, but a carefully planned assassination. The shooter's hiding place is only 10 meters away from the target, professional level. "Boy, this is not your place to play." A fat policeman came over, blew out a smoke ring, and said in an impatient tone, "The police are investigating, get out." Liu Wei smiled and ignored him. He continued to observe, his mind working like precision gears. This golden finger-like observation and logical reasoning are unique skills he has practiced since childhood. The clue points to an insider who knows Congressman Li's itinerary and is familiar with the layout of the parking lot. A preliminary suspect emerges, Yong, Congressman Li's assistant. That guy appears to be honest and friendly, but in fact he is a minor player in the political arena and has great ambitions. Liu Wei went straight to the police station, where Yong had been summoned and was sitting in the interrogation room drinking water. Yong is in his early 30s, wearing black-rimmed glasses and a slightly open shirt collar. He looks like a harmless clerk. When he saw Liu Wei coming in, he frowned slightly. "Who are you?" "I don't know anything about this case." Liu Wei pulled up his chair and sat down, his eyes as sharp as knives. "Mr. Yong, I am Liu Wei, a private detective commissioned by Li Ming to investigate the cause of his father's death. You are an assistant. Where were you on the night of the crime?" Yong put down the water glass and said in a calm tone, "I was watching the football match at home. From 8 to 10 o'clock in the evening, neighbors have proved it. The crime happened at 9:30. I can't be the murderer." The corners of Liu Wei's mouth raised slightly, and the timeline was instantly pieced together in his mind. It's time for a refreshing battle of wits. He took out his mobile phone from his pocket and clicked on a map screenshot. "Watching a football match at home?" "Mr. Yong, the Huayan community where you live is 15 kilometers away from the city center. The crime occurred at 9:30. How come you showed up on the surveillance camera of a nearby convenience store at 9:45? You bought a pack of cigarettes, and the timestamp is clear. Yang's face turned pale, and he tapped his fingers on the table unconsciously. That's a coincidence. I went out early to buy things. Coincidence? Liu Wei leaned forward, his voice low but full of oppression. The climax of the game was from 9:20 to 9:40, but you left home at 9:35. The neighbor confirmed that it was before 9 o'clock, but what happened after? They fell asleep, and you slipped out, rushed to the parking lot, and lurked in the blind spot. The trajectory of the ballistics matched your height, 1.75 meters, and the shooting angle was just right. Mr. Young, your testimony is full of loopholes. Like a paper lantern, it will break when you poke it. The air in the interrogation room seemed to freeze, and Yang's forehead was covered with sweat. He stammered, You are talking nonsense. I have an alibi. Liu Wei stood up and patted the table. Proof? That's your time black hole. I won't let the higher-ups of the police ignore it. Young, you'd better tell the truth, otherwise this loophole will swallow you up. Yang's eyes widened, his mouth opened, but he couldn't speak. Liu Wei turned around and left, feeling a long-lost pleasure in his heart. This is the taste of a battle of wits, tearing apart the veil of lies and letting the truth cut through like a sharp blade. After walking out of the police station, Liu Wei lit a cigarette and leaned against the wall to catch his breath. The dismantling just now made him confident, but he also realized that there was more to this case than the surface. Why did the police delay? There's a ghost on top. At this moment, a clear female voice sounded from behind. Handsome guy, you have a good way of breaking down the testimony. Do you need some exclusive clues? Liu Wei turned his head and saw a short-haired girl leaning on a motorcycle, wearing sunglasses and a leather jacket covering her slender figure. She took off her sunglasses, revealing a pair of smart eyes. Xiaolan, independent reporter. I heard that you took on Congressman Li's case. I have inside information. Liu Wei raised his eyebrows and looked her up and down. Reporter? Here to dig for information. Tell me, what clues? Xiaolan smiled, took out a stack of photos from her backpack, and handed it over. An hour before the incident, Counselor Li had an argument with Yong in the office. Yong wanted to push him to support a development project, but Counselor Li refused. This is my candid photo, and the time is accurate. The police will not move because there are people above. There are gangsters in the mayor's office. Liu Wei took the photo, his eyes twinkling. In the photo, Yang's face was twisted like paper wrinkled by the wind, full of resentment. Xiaolan came closer and whispered, I have channels to avoid those sources of pressure. You investigate and I provide intelligence. How about cooperation? Liu Wei hesitated for a second, and Li Ming's tears flashed in his mind. When they were children, the three of them always shared secrets in the alleys on summer nights. Now, this secret has turned into a conspiracy. Okay, but don't hold back. He stretched out his hand, and Xiaolan took it. His palm was warm, and there was a spark of tacit understanding in his eyes. Deal. Yong is just a pawn, and the water behind him is deep. Xiaolan blinked and got on the motorcycle. The engine roared like a wild beast. I'll take the first step and contact you in the evening. Liu Wei watched her leave. Amidst the smoke, his heart turned from hesitant to burning. The father of a childhood friend cannot die in vain. In this case, he wanted to go deep into the political circle and tear away the fog. The night wind blows, mixed with the echo of distant sirens, and suspense follows, indicating that a bigger storm is coming. Liu Wei stepped on the slippery asphalt road. The streets after the rain reflected the broken light of neon lights, like countless broken mirrors, reflecting the hypocritical face of the city. He drove the second-hand Ford, its engine roaring, and followed Yong's black SUV. After Yong came out of the police station, he went straight to a shabby bar in the suburbs. The taillights of his car flickered on and off in the night fog. Liu Wei's heartbeat was beating like a drum, and the confrontation just now was constantly replayed in his mind. Yong's twinkling eyes had too many secrets. He is not the murderer, but he is definitely a key piece. As a child, he always hid behind Li Ming, but now, he has to charge into battle on his own. There were heavy motorcycles parked in front of the bar, and the air was filled with the sour smell of tobacco and old beer. Liu Wei parked his car at the corner of the street, put on his peaked cap, and slipped into the side alley. Through the dirty windowpane, he saw Young push open the door and come face to face with two tattooed men, one with a bald head and a gold chain hanging around his neck, the other with a beard and fierce eyes like a wolf. They talked in low voices. Young handed over an envelope, and the bald man patted him on the shoulder with a sinister smile. Liu Wei squinted his eyes, scanning like a radar. Young's hands were shaking slightly, the envelope was bulging, it contained either money or evidence. Gangster? This clue leads directly to the political quagmire. The development project that Congressman Li opposes is said to involve underground banks. This brave man is indeed not clean. He quietly returned to the car and dialed Xiaolan's number. On the other end of the phone, Xiaolan's voice was a little sleepy, but she quickly woke up. "Hey, Detective Hero, are you looking for me so late? Is there any progress?" Young went to meet the gangsters, the Black Wolf bar in the suburbs. "What do you have over there?" Liu Wei whispered, the sound of the engine covering up his words. Xiaolan paused, and there was a crisp sound of keyboard tapping in the background. "Wait, I'll send it to you. On the night of the assassination, I had a witness report. It's not official, I got it from a street gangster. An old man, who lives in a low-rent building near the parking lot, said he saw a black SUV flashing into the blind spot at 9:25. The driver wore a hat and moved furtively. The last number of the license plate matches Young's." Sparks flashed in Liu Wei's mind, and the logical chain connected instantly. SUV? Isn't that Young's car? Good job, Lan. Let's meet tomorrow and talk more. I have something to show you. After hanging up the phone, he looked at the photos that popped up on his phone, a candid photo of Xiaolan and a photo of Young and a gangster, 1 week before the incident. Spark? Not only the intelligence, but also the girl's agility made his heart warm, like hot coffee on a winter night, dispelling the chill of fighting alone. At noon the next day, Liu Wei and Xiaolan made an appointment at a hidden roadside stall. The buns in the steamer are steaming hot, mixed with the spicy smell of chili oil, passers-by are rushing, and the sound of horns is constantly heard. Xiaolan handed over a glass of soy milk, her eyes bright. "You chase Young very hard. I saw the photo. The Black Wolf gang is a thug of the mayor's faction. Councilor Li blocked their development path. His motive is obvious." Liu Wei took a bite of the bun, and the hot stuffing exploded in his mouth. He nodded, "No more. There is something wrong with Yang's alibi. I have to dismantle it. Where is the police? I went to ask for surveillance last night, but they resisted and said that the superiors would not allow the investigation." Xiaolan pouted, moved closer, and lightly touched his shoulder, bringing a hint of fresh perfume. "The corrupt system, you just get used to it. But you have me. Expose them, and the media will make a fuss, and the pressure will come." There was a spark of ridicule in her eyes. Liu Wei smiled, thinking, this team has a tacit understanding, and it came faster than expected. He never thought that a detective and a reporter could get along so well. In the afternoon, Liu Wei went straight to the house of Yang's witness, the so-called neighbor, Uncle Wang, a retired worker. The doorbell rang for a long time before the door creaked open. A musty smell hit the room, and the TV was buzzing, playing a boring soap opera. Uncle Wang rubbed his eyes and looked at him suspiciously. "Who are you? Why are you looking for me?" Liu Wei showed his detective card and said in a calm but unyielding tone, "Mr. Wang, regarding Mr. Yang's alibi. I heard that on the night of the crime, did you prove that he was at home watching the football game at 9 o'clock? Uncle Wang's expression changed slightly and he hesitated. Yes, we watched it together. I fell asleep after he left." Liu Wei sat down, the golden fingers in his mind running fast. Logical reasoning starts. In the first version, the neighbor proves that it was before 9 o'clock. In the second version, the convenience store monitors the situation at 9:45. In the third version, the SUV entered the blind spot at 9:25. The timeline overlap rate is as high as 70%, but the testimony is loose. He took out the voice recorder from his bag and pressed play. It was Yong's phone call he secretly recorded last night. And it was the dialogue: "Uncle Wang, remember to say you will be home at 9 o'clock, I gave you the money." Uncle Wang's eyes widened and beads of sweat slid down his forehead. How do you know this?" "Simple logic, Mr. Wang." Liu Wei leaned forward, his voice like a razor blade. "Your TV is an old CRT, the climax of the game is 9:30, the picture quality is blurry, but you remember every detail of the goal?" "Impossible. Unless you didn't watch it, because Yong was not at home at that time. He gave you money to make up a story, but the timestamps don't match. The cigarettes in the convenience store are of a specific brand, and only the Black Wolf bar sells them. The time you bought them was just before the murderer ambush. Faking a witness? This trick is too low level." Uncle Wang's defense collapsed like a sandcastle. He slumped in his chair, his voice trembling. He threatened me. If he said he didn't help, he would destroy my house. Yong owes the gang money, and the development project is theirs. If Representative Li wants to do something bad, Yong, just help lead the way." A refreshing sense of victory surged in Liu Wei's heart, his reasoning cut through lies like a sharp blade, and his brave disguise shattered into powder. He patted Uncle Wang on the shoulder. "Say it and you will be safe. I will protect you." When he walked out of the door, the sun shone warmly on his body, and he felt that he had changed. He was no longer the timid young man. When faced with obstacles, he learned to fight back. But the police didn't make it easy for him. In the evening, Liu Wei took Uncle Wang's confession to the police station. The fat policeman blocked the door and blew out smoke. "Boy, don't make trouble. You have the support of your superiors, but your evidence is not enough." Liu Wei sneered. Xiaolan's words flashed through his mind. The courage to break through is at this moment. He took out his mobile phone and dialed Xiaolan. "Lan, get ready. Tomorrow's headlines: police cover up gangsters, insider assassination of congressman. I have witnesses." Xiaolan's laughter came from the receiver. "Well done. Let's work together to expose them. Come to my studio tonight and talk in detail." Outside the police station, the night wind howled, and Liu Wei looked at the back of the fat policeman with a fire burning in his chest. This is not the end, but the beginning. He has never used the media to exert pressure, but now, he understands justice cannot wait. He has to fight for it himself. Late at night, Xiaolan's studio is brightly lit, the coffee machine is humming, and the walls are covered with newspaper clippings and maps. She handed over a cup of hot cocoa, and the sparks in her eyes became brighter. "I have recorded Uncle Wang's confession and will send it out tomorrow. The police will have to take action. Where's Yong's whereabouts? Who is the gang contact pointing to?" Liu Wei spread out the map and pointed at the mayor's office. "Behind the development project is the collusion between the mayor and the Black Wolf gang." Councillor Li knew the inside story and was silenced. "But Yong is just a pawn. Who ordered him?" Xiaolan came closer and touched his shoulder lightly. The air was filled with the sweet fragrance of cocoa. "I have an informant who said that before the incident, Councillor Li received an anonymous letter warning him not to touch the project. There is a special watermark on the envelope, reserved only for the political arena." Liu Wei's eyes narrowed, and another link in the logical chain was connected. Watermark? That points higher. Just then, the phone vibrated, and an anonymous text message popped up, a photo, a blurry figure holding a gun, with the parking lot in the background. But next to the figure, there was an unexpected silhouette. Jing, a passerby girl, peeking her head out of the alley. "This is..." Liu Wei murmured, suspense rising like mist. "Quiet. Isn't she a witness? Why hide it?" The shadow of a larger conspiracy quietly emerged, and the darkness of the city seemed to have just begun. The studio lights reflected on Liu Wei's face, casting long shadows. He stared at the photo on his phone, the blurry outline lingering like a ghost. Quiet. Why would an ordinary passerby appear at the alley where the assassination occurred? Xiaolan came closer, her breath brushing against his ear, with a faint smell of mint. "This girl doesn't look like a coincidence. Her figure is too close to the blind spot, maybe she is a key witness. Liu Wei rubbed his temples, and golden finger-like reasoning flooded into his mind. The chain of logic instantly straightened. Yong was just a pawn. His SUV entered the blind spot and the time matched, but he was not the shooter. Then who? The development projects that Councilman Li opposes are behind the power struggle in the city. Deputy Mayor Zhang, in his early 50s, looks elegant, but is actually the protector of the Black Wolf Gang. He claimed to have had a meeting at his official residence on the night of the incident, and the evidence was conclusive. But Liu Wei's intuition told him that there were holes in this testimony. Lan, let's expand the investigation. Vice Mayor Zhang is the second suspect. He has the biggest motive. Congressman Li ruined his project. If you assassinate him, you can kill two birds with one stone. Xiaolan raised her eyebrows and gave a playful smile at the corner of her mouth. High-level executives? You are quite courageous, detective. He will have a press conference tomorrow. I will sneak in and dig out the inside story. What about you? Dismantle his alibi? Liu Wei nodded, stood up and stretched. Outside the studio, the night rain in the city was drizzling, beating on the window glass like countless small drums. I'm going to check his finances. It's too tiring to work alone. This time, we join forces. When he said this, his heart felt warm. In the past, he always kept to himself for fear of dragging others down. But Li Ming's tears and Xiaolan's information made him understand that justice is not a battlefield for one person. The darkness of politics, like this rainy night, is sticky and cruel. If you stand alone, you will only be swallowed up. At noon the next day, the City Hall was buzzing with people, and reporters' flashbulbs poured down like a rainstorm. Xiaolan changed into a professional suit, her hair was tied up, and she pretended to be a new media person. Her name tag was hung on her chest, City News, Editor Xia. She squeezed into the front row, holding her notebook in her arm, and her eyes swept across the stage like a hawk. Vice Mayor Zhang, in a neat suit and with a smile on his face, talked about the people's livelihood and well-being of the development project, and received thunderous applause from the audience. But Xiaolan noticed that his fingers were tapping the speech script unconsciously, and the rhythm was messed up, a sign of nervousness. During the reporter's question session, Xiaolan raised her hand and said in a clear voice, Vice Mayor Zhang, after Councilor Li was assassinated, is the development project still going forward? I heard that the Black Wolf Gang has a hand in it. What do you think? On the stage, Vice Mayor Zhang's smile froze for a moment, then resumed, it's just rumors. We handle everything in accordance with the law. But Xiaolan didn't stop. She leaned closer to the microphone and whispered, then why are there traces of gang money laundering in the project funds? My informant said that the minutes of the meeting at your official residence were missing by half an hour when the crime occurred. The hall buzzed with reporters murmuring. Vice Mayor Zhang's face was ashen and sweat was pouring from his forehead. Miss, please provide evidence. Otherwise, this is slander. Xiaolan smiled and took out a photocopy of the bank transfer statement from her bag, which Liu Wei passed to her last night. Vice Mayor Zhang's private account received 500,000 unknown payments 1 week before the incident, and the source pointed directly to the Black Wolf Gang. She waved the paper, evidence. Here. The funds flowed to your overseas account. Is it a coincidence? There was a stir under the stage, and the flashlights flashed crazily. Vice Mayor Zhang stuttered and his voice trembled. This is fake. The entire meeting was recorded. But his eyes evaded, like a popped balloon, and the embarrassment was written all over his face. Xiaolan felt happy. This was the sharp blade of the media, cutting through the disguise of power. She quickly retreated to the back row and texted Liu Wei, evidence of collusion is available. He panicked. At the same time, Liu Wei was in the archives room of the city library. The air was filled with the musty smell of old paper, and the sunlight shone from the high windows, modeled like a chessboard. He flipped through Vice Mayor Zhang's meeting minutes, reasoning in his mind like a precision machine. Goldfinger activation. The incident occurred at 9:30. Zhang claimed that there was a meeting at the official residence from 8 to 10 o'clock, the secretary confirmed. But Liu Wei noticed that there was no sign-in on the record from 9:20 to 9:50. The secretary's handwriting was shaky, as if he was making up for it later. Motive prediction, power struggle. Congressman Li has Zhang's dirty information. The development project is a cover, but in fact the land is resold to gangsters to launder the stolen money. Assassinating him will prevent future troubles forever. Liu Wei closed the file and dialed Xiaolan. Lan, how are you doing there? My theory is that Zhang is the mastermind. His alibi was forged and the secretary was bribed. On the other end of the phone, Xiaolan's voice was excited. Hit the target. At the press conference, I threw out the transfer slip, and his face turned green. The gang collusion was exposed, and the police had to take action. But be careful, he may send someone to keep an eye on you. After hanging up, Liu Wei walked out of the library. The afternoon sun was dazzling and the hawking sounds of street vendors were lively. He drove to his secretary's house, mentally planning his next move. Suddenly, in the rearview mirror, a black van followed closely, with the windows half down, and two bald men looking fiercely at each other. Black Wolf Gang? The chase is coming. Liu Wei's heartbeat accelerated. He held the steering wheel tightly, stepped on the accelerator, and the car sped out like an arrow. In exciting adventurous moments, he has never faced death so close. The van accelerated, its horn honked wildly, and pedestrians on the street screamed and ducked. Liu Wei turned into the alley, the tires screeched against the ground, and the smell of burnt rubber filled the air. Xiaolan's warning flashed through his mind, and his heart sank. The cruelty of political darkness was revealed in this chase. In the past, he had always escaped danger on his own, but now, he needed a partner. We can no longer go it alone. He turned sharply, and the car grazed the corner, sparks flying. As the van approached, a man leaned over and pointed his gun at the rear window. Damn it! Liu Wei cursed, reasoning running in his mind. There is construction at the end of the alley, and the roadblock can stop them. He accelerated and sprinted, the body bumping like a roller coaster. The man fired, the bullet grazed the rear of the car, the glass shattered, and the wind howled in. Liu Wei caught a glimpse of the roadblock, braked hard, and the car skidded to a stop. He jumped out of the car, rolled into a trash can on the roadside, and picked up an iron pipe on the ground. The two men got out of the car and approached with heavy footsteps. Boy, if you dare to ruin Zhang's situation, you are seeking death. Liu Wei took a deep breath, and his inner monologue was like lightning. Don't panic, observe their weaknesses. The bald man held a cigarette in his left hand and moved slowly. The bearded man held a gun in his right hand and stood unsteadily. He waited for an opportunity. When the man approached, the iron pipe swung out, hitting the bearded man's wrist, and the gun flew down. The bald man rushed at him, but Liu Wei dodged sideways and kicked him in the knee. The man knelt down and wailed. The chase was resolved. He gasped and picked up the gun and called the police. The Black Wolf Gang is attacking. Send location. When the police arrived, the two men were already handcuffed and Liu Wei was leaning against the wall. His clothes were dirty and his sweat was mixed with blood. But there was a solid sense of growth in his heart. This exciting escape was not luck, but the courage he had learned. Xiaolan's intelligence allowed him to predict the danger. If he had fought alone, he would have been in trouble. The darkness of politics, like the shadow in this alley, swallowed up countless people, but he was no longer afraid. He called Xiaolan. Lan, I solved the chase. Thanks to you, I started to rely on this feeling. Xiaolan's laughter came from the phone, as warm as sunshine. Fool, we are a team. Come back, I have something new. Zhang's secretary contacted me and he wants to retract his confession. In the evening, Liu Wei returned to the studio, and Xiaolan handed him a cup of hot tea. The aroma of tea relieved the fatigue of the day. She spread out the secretary's chat history. He admitted that Zhang was not in the conference room when the crime occurred. At 9:20, Zhang sneaked out, called Yong, and said, "Get rid of that old guy Li." Money transaction? The secretary saw Zhang giving Yong a stack of cash, 500,000, to pay for the murder. Liu Wei's eyes lit up, and his predictions came true. The motive for the assassination due to power struggle, Zhang Weibao's project, and the destruction of Congressman Li's mouth. In a refreshing moment of dismantling, he stood up. Tomorrow, I will openly question Zhang. The aftermath of the press conference is still there, and I will use the media to force him to reveal himself. The next day, media gathered outside City Hall. Liu Wei mingled with the crowd, and Xiaolan handed him the microphone. He raised his hand and said loudly, "Deputy Mayor Zhang, I am Liu Wei, investigating the assassination case of Councillor Li. Your meeting minutes, from 9:20 to 50, lack of sign-in. Secretary's testimony, you called to pay Yong 500,000 for the murder. I have all the transfer bills and phone records." There was silence, then erupted. Vice Mayor Zhang had just slipped out of the back door and was blocked by reporters. His face turned pale. You are slanderous. Where is the evidence?" Liu Wei stepped forward, took out his recorder, and pressed play. The secretary's confession voice was clear. "Bureau Zhang, he said to deal with Congressman Li, I saw the money." The scene was reversed. Zhang stuttered, his legs became weak, and he slid against the wall. "No, not me." Reporters swarmed, flashlights were like a storm. He was as embarrassed as a stripped monkey, and his power shell was shattered. Liu Wei stepped back and watched Zhang being taken away by the police, feeling a surge of relief in his heart. But there was a quiet twist in his heart. This victory was not his one-man show. Xiaolan's eyes met, and he whispered, "Lan, thank you. The pool of politics is too dark for me to swim alone." Xiaolan held his hand, her palm warm. "We are together. The case has progressed, but Yong has not let go. The bigger fish is behind." At this moment, Liu Wei's cell phone vibrated with a new text message. Jing's address, with a photo attached. She was hiding in a low-rent building, with a clear figure by the window. An unexpected discovery revives suspense. Why are traces of Jing emerging now? The fog of conspiracy is getting thicker. The night in the city is like a lurking beast, and the neon lights twist into ghostly silhouettes in the fog after the rain. Liu Wei clenched his cell phone. The address of the anonymous text message was like a thorn in his mind. Jing, the figure by the window on the third floor of the low-rent building. The door of the studio closed behind him, and Xiaolan's voice still echoed in his ears. "Be careful, detective. This girl is hiding deep, maybe it's a trap." He nodded, grabbed his coat, and hurriedly stepped up the stairs. Outside, the wind was mixed with the putrid smell of trash cans, and the street lights lengthened his shadow, like a loyal follower. As he drove off, Liu Wei caught a glimpse of the rearview mirror and saw a gray car looming, its headlights flashing like wolf eyes in the fog. Tailgating? The remaining members of the Black Wolf gang. His heart tightened, he stepped on the accelerator, and the car sped into the alley, the tires squealing sharply against the slippery road. The car followed, its engine roaring like a wild beast chasing. He turned sharply and passed the newsstand on the roadside. The newspapers flew like snowflakes, and passers-by screamed and dodged. Damn it, Zhang fell, and they still haven't given up. Liu Wei cursed, his golden finger running in his mind. The car behind him was a Toyota, which is common in urban areas, but the license plate was blurred, which proved that it was a changed one. Unable to fight, he slowed down and pretended to stop buying cigarettes. When the man got out of the car, he accelerated out and turned into another alley. The car disappeared, and he breathed a sigh of relief, sweat sliding down his back, sticky and cold. The chase in the dark night made him feel more deeply the sticky web of political conspiracy, a web that could strangle ordinary people at any time. Low-rent buildings stand on the edge of the old city, with mottled exterior walls, rusty iron doors, and the air filled with the musty smell of sewerage. Liu Wei parked his car at the corner of the street, put on his hat, and slipped into the corridor. The light bulbs in the stairwell flickered, and the sound of footsteps echoed in the empty corridor, like the echo of a heartbeat. On the third floor, the door number 302 was crooked. He knocked on the door lightly, and there were 3 long and 2 short knocks, proving that he was not a policeman. There was a rustling sound inside the door, and the door opened a crack, revealing Jing's face in his early 20s, with messy long hair, eyes as red and swollen as rabbits, wrapped in an old blanket, shaking. Who are you? Jing's voice was as thin as a mosquito's buzzing, and her eyes were full of fear, like a frightened little animal. Liu Wei lowered his voice and showed his detective card. Liu Wei, investigate the assassination case of Congressman Li. Was that photo sent by you? Jing, I am not an enemy. Come in and talk. She hesitated, opened the door wider, and Liu Wei squeezed in sideways. The room was simple, with an old sofa, a dim lamp, instant noodle boxes scattered on the table, and the air was stuffy and humid. Jing retreated to the corner, hugged her knees and sat down. I was just passing by. That night, I came home from the alley and saw an SUV parked in the blind spot. A man got out of the car, wearing a hat, and something flashed like a gun in his hand. Then, a gunshot rang out, and I was scared and ran away. Liu Wei knelt down, his eyes were gentle, not like an interrogation, but like an old friend chatting. Jing, thank you for your bravery in sending a text message. But why are you hiding? Who is chasing you? Jing's tears fell, her voice choked. The gang, they came to me. They said I saw something I shouldn't have seen. I'm an ordinary office worker, how could I get involved in this? Yong, that assistant, I saw him having a secret meeting with a senior executive in a coffee shop, just before the incident. God. He was a man in his 50s, wearing a suit and leather jacket. When he spoke, he mentioned Project and solve Li's trouble. Liu Wei's heartbeat accelerated, and the logical chain connected like lightning. Have the courage to have a secret meeting with senior officials? This breaks the deadlock and goes to the heart of power. Director Zhao, the third suspect, emerges, seemingly clean, but actually the shadow of the mayor, controlling the development project. But Jing's fear came like a tide. She hugged her knees tightly and murmured, "They will kill me. I don't want to die." At that moment, Liu Wei's heart softened. In the past, he always reasoned calmly and regarded witnesses as clues. But now, looking at Jing's tearful eyes, he thought of the helpless eyes of his childhood friend Li Ming. The responsibility of a detective is not only to pursue the murderer, but also to protect people. He stretched out his hand and patted her shoulder, conveying warmth in his palm. Jing, listen. You are not alone. I will protect you. Move to a safe place, and I will arrange for Xiaolan to help you. As a reporter, you can avoid tracking. The truth needs you, but your safety is more important. Jing was stunned, smiling through tears, and nodded, okay. I believe you. Liu Wei dialed Xiaolan. On the other end of the phone, she was typing on the keyboard, her voice excited. Detective, Jing's clue? Tell me. Yong and Director Zhao had a secret meeting in a coffee shop the day before the incident. Jing witnessed it with her own eyes and said, deal with Li. You can verify the authenticity. Liu Wei whispered, glancing out the window. The night was silent. Xiaolan paused, and there was the sound of turning pages in the background. Wait for me for 5 minutes. A few minutes later, she called back, it's true. My informant has screenshots of the cafe's surveillance, the time matches, and Zhao's profile is clear. He collected the bag bravely, and his movements were sneaky. This drove us straight to the mayor's office. Where is Zhao's alibi? At the time of the crime, he claimed to be picking up VIPs at the airport. Sparks flashed in Liu Wei's mind, and the turning point of his growth was silent at this moment. From fighting alone to escorting a team, he learned to care, which made him stronger. Quietly curling up on the sofa, listening to him hang up the phone, softly, thank you, you are not like those cold-blooded police officers. Early the next morning, Liu Wei and Jing moved to Xiaolan's apartment. The air was filled with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, the curtains were tightly drawn, and it was as safe as a fortress. Xiaolan handed over the hot milk and blinked, little sister, don't be afraid. Our sisters are here to protect you. Jing smiled, showing peace of mind for the first time. Liu Wei went straight to the airport to trace Zhao's alibi. The airport hall is crowded with people, the sound of announcements echoes. and the air is mixed with the smell of perfume and sweat. He found the security room and showed his ID, Director Zhao's surveillance. The incident occurred around 9:30. The security guard frowned and handed over the tablet. This is the official record. He picked people up in the VIP area at 9 o'clock. In the screen, Zhao smiled and waved, and the timestamp was clear. But Liu Wei's golden finger was activated, and his observation was like a microscope. The second hand of the clock in the background was 2 steps slower. Zhao's shadow was too long and did not match the lighting angle. Forgery? There is something wrong with this video. Adjust the original file. The security guard hesitated. The boss won't let me. Liu Wei sneered, with logical deductions running through his mind. The timestamp can be changed, but physical traces cannot deceive people. The clock in the VIP area is an old model, 1 minute slower every hour. The shadow angle, the 9 o'clock airport lights should be from the east, but Zhao's is from the west. Synthesis. He called Xiaolan, Lan. Zhao's surveillance is fake. The synthetic traces are obvious. I need Jing's testimony for confrontation. In the afternoon, Director Zhao was summoned in the police interrogation room. He sat at the table with his suit straight and his eyes as gloomy as dark clouds. Yong is also next door, looking pale. Liu Wei opened the door and entered, followed by Jing and Xiaolan guarding the door. Zhao glanced at Jing and laughed. Little girl, talk nonsense, be careful of the consequences. Liu Wei sat down and spoke in a steady voice. Director Zhao, you were not at the airport when the crime occurred. The surveillance was forged, the clock was 2 steps slower, and the shadows were misplaced. The logic is simple. The synthesis software left the tail, and the timestamp was changed from 9:27 to 9:30, but the original light did not match. Who can help you? The technology of the Black Wolf gang? Zhao's face twitched and he forced a smile. Nonsense. Where is the evidence? Liu Wei clicked on the tablet and zoomed in on the screen. Look here, the clock and second hand are blurred, and there is pixel noise at the edge of the synthesis. The airport security has the original file, which proves that you left at 9:20 and went straight to the parking lot. Jing, tell him what you saw. Jing took a deep breath, her voice trembling but firm. I saw Yong's SUV, you got in from the back door. Then, there was gunfire. You said, hurry up, the project can't be ruined. There was a secret meeting in the cafe, you gave Yong money and let him lead the way. Zhao's defense collapsed, cutting through lies like a sharp sword. He slammed the table and shouted, shut up. What do you know? That old Guile ruined the mayor's overall situation. Development is people's livelihood, gangsters. That's cooperation. As soon as the words came out, he was stunned, his face turned pale, and he was sweating like rain. Yong heard it from next door, through the one-way glass on the wall, and broke down and cried, Director Zhao, it was you who ordered it. You gave me the money, I'm just an assistant. Outside the interrogation room, Xiaolan whispered, Jing's testimony is like a knife, cutting through everything. Yong's loopholes are exposed and pointed at the mayor. Liu Wei hugged Jing's shoulders and whispered, you are brave. Go home, I will send someone to escort you. Jing nodded, with light in his eyes. Warmth surged in his heart. This was not only the feeling of victory, but also growth, protecting witnesses, turning him from a cold-blooded detective into a flesh-and-blood guardian. Political darkness has devoured countless people, but human concern is his new weapon. At night, the lights in the studio were dim. Liu Wei spread out the map and pointed at the Black Wolf gang's stronghold, an abandoned factory in the suburbs. Xiaolan came closer, frowning. Zhao fell, but the mayor is still there. Yong confessed, and the stronghold has the final evidence, the assassination video and the fund list. Shall we infiltrate? Liu Wei nodded with firm eyes. Yes. Tomorrow night, I will be the main attack, and you and Jing will provide long-range support. The followers are still there, and this time, we will fight back. Outside the window, the night wind howled, and the shadow of the factory was like a giant beast entrenched, and the tension was like a fully drawn bowstring, indicating an even bigger storm. The night wind in the suburbs blew through the iron fence of the abandoned factory like a knife. The rusty fence cast distorted shadows in the moonlight, and the air was filled with the sour smell of engine oil and rotten wood. Liu Wei squatted beside the grass, wrapped in a black windbreaker, with a flashlight and a small tool bag stuffed in his pocket. Xiaolan and Jing stayed in the studio, monitoring remotely, but Xiaolan's whisper came from her earphones. "Detective, there are 2 guards on the east side of the factory, and the patrol interval is 5 minutes. There is a gap in the west gate barbed wire fence. I used a drone to explore the path. Don't be a hero." Liu Wei pressed the earphones and raised the corners of his mouth slightly. "Lan, don't worry. I'm not the dumb guy who works alone now. This time, we fight as a team." When he said this, a warm current surged in his heart. In the past, he always felt that detective work was a lone wolf's job, and he was afraid of injuring others. But after the fall of Vice Mayor Zhang, he understood that justice is like this night, it must be illuminated by fire. Jing's bravery and Xiaolan's agility turned him from a weakling to a leader. No longer hesitating, he wanted to lead the investigation, tear apart the political shady curtain, and seek justice for Li Ming's father. He took a deep breath and climbed over the wall, his steps as light as a cat's, and the grass blades rustled when he landed. The interior of the factory is a maze of ruins, with dilapidated machines standing like the skeletons of giant beasts. The sound of dogs barking in the distance is low and alert. Liu Wei followed Xiaolan's guidance and touched the side door of the main building. The door lock was an old-fashioned padlock. He fiddled with it a few times with a small wire and it opened with a click. It was pitch dark inside, and the air was as hot as a steamer, mixed with the stench of tobacco and sweat. He turned on the flashlight, and scanned the file cabinet in the corner with its dim light, and his golden fingers were running in his mind. Yang's alibi was a gang plan, and there must be recordings or transaction records here. Pushing open a door that was ajar, there was a small office, with ashtrays and beer cans scattered on the table. Liu Wei put on his gloves, opened the drawer, and found a stack of USB flash drives and a code book. The scrawled writing on the code book is like a spider web, numbers and symbols, a mess. He frowned, the logic chain in his mind whirling. This is not a random code, it is the habit of the Black Wolf Gang to use development project keywords to convert. The first line, Project Capital Flow, converted into numbers, FA, 7, Development, 8, Item, 9, Item, 10, Blacken, 1, Wolf, 2, Code. Try 7810-12. He inserted the USB flash drive and entered. The screen lit up and a file popped up, a recording file, labeled Yong Trading. It's time for a refreshing battle of wits. Liu Wei clicked on play, and Yang's voice came from the earphones, stuttering and nervous. "Boss, my alibi is ready. Uncle Wang has collected the money, and the alibi for the game is iron plate. But what should Congressman Li do?" On the other end, the gang boss's laughter was as rough as sandpaper. "Boy, don't panic. We planned it. You drive the SUV into the blind spot, send the signal, and our gunman will deal with him. If it's done, you'll get 30% of the project money. Remember, the proof is a trick of our Black Wolf Gang, don't reveal the truth." Liu Wei clenched his fists, and a thrill of victory erupted in his heart. This recording was like a sharp blade, confirming that Yang's proof was handled by the gang, and all the loopholes were filled. The flow of funds is also clear. Money laundered from development projects goes straight to the mayor's overseas account. The shadow of a political bigwig has surfaced. He quickly copied the documents and stuffed them into his pocket. Just as he was about to leave, there were heavy and chaotic footsteps outside the door. Ambush. 2 bald men broke in, the iron rods in their hands shone coldly, and one shouted, "Boy, are you stealing? You are looking for death." Liu Wei's heart beat like a drum, and the escape route flashed in his mind. The window was too high, the door was blocked. He scanned the room and fixed his gaze on the old electrical box in the corner. The wires were exposed and sparks were faint. Wisdom resolves crises at this moment. He pretended to retreat and knocked over the table. The beer can rolled down and made a loud noise, distracting the man. Taking the opportunity, he pounced on the electrical box and kicked off the main wire. Sparks flew everywhere, the room instantly went dark, and screams started. In the darkness, Liu Wei rolled under the table. The man cursed and swung his stick, hitting the air. He whispered into the earphone, "Lan, have the guards on the east side moved? Give me information." Xiaolan's voice was urgent and breathy, "Quick! There are car lights flashing at the west gate, and there are 3 reinforcements. But there's a trail at your back door, bypassing the machine room, and going straight to the back wall. I will use the drone to lure the dog away and run away in 2 minutes." Her agility was like a life-saving straw, and Liu Wei's heart felt hot. This was not just information, but her trust in him. In the past, he always carried it alone. Now, this emotional bond makes him feel not alone. He took advantage of the chaos to crawl out, and the iron bar grazed his shoulder, causing burning pain. Liu Wei gritted his teeth, grabbed a broken brick from the ground, and smashed it into a man's knee. The guy fell to the ground wailing. Another one pounced on him, and he dodged sideways, locking his throat and pressing his knee to his abdomen. The man fell limply. The crisis averted, he gasped and rushed out of the back door. The path was as narrow as a rat's path, and the remains of the machine scraped against his clothes and made a screeching sound. The dog barked approaching, but he heard the drone of the drone, and Xiaolan's voice sounded again, "Turn left, climb out the back wall." Silence is on the line, she has something new. After climbing over the wall and landing, Liu Wei went straight to the car and left with the engine roaring. Behind the factory, there were sporadic gunshots, and his heart was still racing. But there was a quiet inner twist. This time, he was not escaping, but leading a retreat. Weak detective? No, he has transformed and has a firm belief in justice. For Jing and Li Ming, he has to take the lead. Back in the studio, it was already early in the morning, the light was warm and yellow. Xiaolan handed over the hot towel, eyes full of worry. "Idiot, your shoulder is injured? Let me take a look." She pressed the wound gently, her movements were as gentle as caressing. Liu Wei was stunned, and held her hand. "Lan, thank you. Your information saved my life. Without you, I would have been trapped. Go it alone." Jing sat up from the sofa, hugged her knees, and said softly, "Brother Liu, let me add some details. That night, I not only saw the SUV, but also caught a glimpse of the profile of the car. Not young, but an old man, around 60, with a gray beard and a gold watch. I recognized it on the news. It was Old Man Wang, the head of the mayor's personal advisory group. He and Director Zhao are together, political bigwigs, controlling everything." Liu Wei's eyes lit up, and the logical chain started. Old Man Wang, the mastermind, emerged. The capital flow in the recording points directly to the mayor, but Wang is the executor and the high-level conspiracy is locked. Here comes the second cool moment, the heroic moment. He stood up and spread out the copied documents. "Jing, your details are like gold. In the gang's lair, I not only took the recording, but also rescued a witness." Thinking back to when he infiltrated, he heard crying in the side room, rushed in, and found a middle-aged woman tied to a chair with a piece of cloth stuffed in her mouth. She was the accountant of the Black Wolf gang and was coerced into falsifying financial records. Liu Wei cut the rope and helped her up. "Sister, don't be afraid. I am Liu Wei, here to tear them down. Come with us, the police will protect you." The woman's eyes were filled with tears, and she trembled. "Thank you. They forced me to change the account, and all the development money was given to the mayor. Old Man Wang personally ordered that those who said bad things about Counselor Li must be silenced." Liu Wei protected her and retreated, blocking a stick on the way. The pain in his shoulder was still faint. But at that moment of rescue, like a hero arriving, he felt that he had changed, not only reasoned, but also had to act to protect the weak. This growth makes the belief in justice as firm as a rock. Xiaolan moved closer to the map and pointed at the mayor's mansion. "Old Man Wang lives there, in a high-walled courtyard." But the recorded testimony with added silence and the accountant's retracted confession are irrefutable. "Are we going to expose it?" Liu Wei nodded, his eyes sharp. "No rush. Contact the police first, and I will personally bring the witnesses. You handle the media, Lan. This time, I will take the lead. Jing smiled. Brother Liu, you have changed. Like a general. The sky was slightly bright, and Liu Wei drove the accountant to the police station. In the rearview mirror, a black car loomed. The chase begins, and Old Man Wang's remnants move. Engines roar, sirens loom on the city's awakening streets, and a storm is about to sweep into the heart of the political arena. The white fish belly on the horizon has not completely dispersed, and the city's awakening has been torn apart by the roar of the engine. Liu Wei held the steering wheel tightly, and the black Toyota followed him like a shadow in the rearview mirror, its lights flashing in the morning fog like the eyes of two evil wolves. The accounting sister in the passenger seat, her name is Xiaolan. She is in her early 40s, her face is as pale as paper, her hands are tightly grasping the seatbelt. Detective Liu, is this Mr. Wang's person? They won't let me go. Liu Wei glanced at her, and his voice was as steady as a rock. Sister, sit tight. Don't panic, I'll get rid of them. He stepped on the accelerator, and the Ford car sped off the main road and turned into a narrow alley. The tires screeched against the slippery road, and the air was filled with the smell of earth after the rain and the smell of burnt rubber. The black cars clung to the scene, honking their horns wildly, and newspapers flying from the breakfast stalls on the roadside were blown up by the wind. Xiaolan screamed, behind. They shot. The bullet grazed the rear of the car, the glass shattered, and the wind howled into the car. Liu Wei's heartbeat was like a war drum, and the reasoning in his mind was like a golden finger. This was not a random chase. The black car model was the standard equipment of the Black Wolf gang, and there were two drivers, one tall and one short. From the outline of the rearview mirror, the tall man was holding a gun in his left hand, and the short man was driving. Trap? There was a red light ahead, and there were construction vehicles blocking the road at the intersection, like a deliberate trap. He sneered, slowed down and pretended to brake, causing the black car to move forward. Sure enough, the short man took the bait and sped to the side, while the tall man leaned forward and took aim. Now! Liu Wei growled, turned the steering wheel fiercely, and the car crashed over him. With a bang, the black car rolled over and rolled into the ditch on the side of the road. Smoke was coming from the front of the car. Two men climbed out, covered in mud and water, cursing. Liu Wei didn't stop and accelerated through the red light. The siren sounded faintly from behind. Xiaolan called the police. He took a breath and pressed the earphone. Lan, the pursuers have been dealt with. Xiaolan is safe. Where is Yong? Is there any news on his escape route? On the other end of the phone, Xiaolan's voice was urgent, mixed with the crisp sound of typing on the keyboard. Detective, are you okay? That bastard Yong was released from the police station on bail last night and ran to the suburbs. My informant said that he drove that SUV and drove straight to the Black Wolf gang. The old warehouse. Jing is here, she has new clues, waiting for you to come back to elaborate. I just published the preliminary report. Assistant Yong colluded with the gang, the evidence was exposed. Liu Wei nodded, the corners of his mouth raised. Xiaolan's exposure was like a heavy punch on the door of the corrupt system. In the past, he always investigated secretly, fearing to alert the enemy, but now, facing threats from the top, an anonymous phone call from the mayor's office last night, warning him to stop meddling in other people's business, otherwise Li Ming will be in danger, he decided to disclose some of the evidence. This is a breakthrough of courage, transforming from a weak detective into a fighter who dares to challenge power. For Li Ming, for the promise made in his childhood, he could no longer retreat. Okay, Lan. You guard Xiaolan and Jing while I chase Yong. Send me the coordinates of the warehouse. The suburban warehouse area was gray, the morning wind stirred up dust, and the iron doors creaked like ghosts crying and wolves howling. Liu Wei parked the car in a hidden place, grabbed an old iron bar that he pulled out of the car, and slipped into the side door. It was empty, filled with discarded cargo boxes, and the air was filled with the smell of mold, rot and engine oil. He replayed Yong's alibi in his mind. The ball game, the neighbors, and Uncle Wang were all illusions planned by the gang. But the last link, the route home after the incident, Yong claimed to have arrived home at 9:55, and neighbors heard the sound of the car. But Liu Wei found out from Xiaolan last night that there was a GPS record in the warehouse and that Yang's SUV was still circling around the blind spot in the city at 9:52. Footsteps sounded from behind, and Liu Wei ducked behind the cargo box. Yang appeared, breathing heavily. His shirt was dirty, and his eyes were as red and swollen as rabbits. "Damn it," Zhao fell, and Old Man Wang panicked. "I have to run," he muttered to himself, rummaged through the hidden compartment in the corner, and took out a small box. Inside were keys and a fake passport. Liu Wei pounced on him, locked his neck, and put an iron rod on his back. "Yang, you can't run away. Your final proof, go home at 9:55? The GPS shows that you were still wandering around the warehouse at 9:52. The gang asked you to go around in circles to create a time difference, and then pretended to be innocent on the return trip." Yang struggled, his face flushed. Let go. You have no evidence." The neighbor heard the sound of the car. Liu Wei pressed hard and Yang knelt down, his knees hitting the cement floor with a muffled sound. The logical chain in his mind was connected like lightning. GPS data, Xiaolan's financial records, Jing's witnesses, all pieced together. Evidence? Your SUV has a black box. I copied it from Xiaolan last night. You left the blind spot at 9:45, circled the warehouse, signaled to the gunman at 9:52, and then accelerated home. The sound of the car? It was an engine modification. The sound was loud, and the neighbors heard the wrong time. You are the executor, leading the way in making absence. All are gangster scripts. But why? Counselor Li broke the development project. How much did you take? Yang's defense collapsed, sweat mixed with tears, and he slumped to the ground, his voice trembling. I owe the gang money, $500,000. Old Man Wang said that if he helped lure Congressman Li into the hook, the debt would be forgiven. After the incident, I worked as a connector to get the balance. But I was not the mastermind. It was the mayor. He wanted the project to go smoothly and the land to be sold to the Black Wolf gang for money laundering. Congressman Li knew the inside story and opposed it to the end. Old Man Wang personally planned the assassination. Yang is just a pawn. I vomited all the tricks. Liu Wei let go of his hand and dialed the police. Yang is here in the warehouse area. Bring the black box data. He confessed. The police sirens approached, and when Yang was handcuffed away, his eyes were desperate. Detective Liu, spare me. The mayor is powerful, so be careful. Liu Wei nodded, with a refreshing sense of victory in his heart. Dismantling the final proof, cutting through lies like a sharp knife, turned Yang from a suspect into a witness. This is not just a battle of wits, but also his growth. In the face of corruption, he chooses a direct confrontation. Outside the police station, media gathered. Xiaolan's report spread like wildfire. Internet searches for assassination of congressmen and gang collusion flooded the screen, and citizens' anger rose. Liu Wei pushed away the crowd and came up quietly. She changed into a simple t-shirt. Although her eyes were red and swollen, her eyes were as firm as steel. Brother Liu, I heard that Yang was recruited. I also want to testify. I looked through my old phone last night and found photos from the night of the crime. There was a blurry side view of the SUV, and Old Man Wang's gray beard was clearly visible. He didn't appear by chance, he was the leader. Liu Wei was stunned and held her hand. Jing, you are brave. This clue reveals the power struggle. The mayor manipulated the gang to silence the project to protect the project. Councilman Li is the obstruction stone, and Old Man Wang is the execution knife. Behind the development is a big network of land reselling and money laundering, and the upper echelons of the political arena are all rotten. Jing nodded, with a clear voice. I'm going to the police station to record a statement. I have been in the dark for so long, and I don't want to hide anymore. Xiaolan came over and handed over the tablet. The pressure of public opinion has worked. The mayor's office issued a statement denying everything, but netizens did not buy it. The police just contacted and said that the superiors will relent and let you bring the evidence to the core investigation team. She blinked and lightly touched Liu Wei with her shoulder. Detective, you have changed. You used to hide it, but now you disclose the evidence and dare to change the system. This courage makes my heart move." Liu Wei smiled and rubbed his eyebrows. The golden finger in his mind was running, and all the clues were fitting together like a puzzle: Yang's execution, Zhao's perjury, Old Man Wang's planning, Xiaolan's funds, Jing's photos, all pointing to the mayor, the seemingly amiable political boss. A bigger conspiracy emerges, more than one assassination. This is a series of purges, and all opponents are silenced. Foresight? The mayor's overseas account, with more evidence, is in the safe at the official residence. Lan, Jing, we are not just catching small fish. The mayor is the mastermind, and I will point it out to him. I will hold a press conference in the afternoon and release Yang's confession and Jing's photos. I want to root out the corrupt system. At the press conference, the crowd was crowded and the flashlights were like a rainstorm. Liu Wei stood on the stage and said with a sonorous voice, "Everyone, Yang has pleaded guilty in the assassination case of Congressman Li. He is the executor and was ordered by the mayor. Old Man Wang planned in the power struggle to launder money for the project. The evidence is here: GPS, photos, capital flow, all public." The audience exploded, and the mayor's office was called, but Liu Wei did not retreat. Faced with the threatening text message from the superior, "Boy, you will regret it," his heart burned with fire. This turning point allowed him to grow from a young detective to a sword of justice, no longer afraid of the darkness. After the meeting, Liu Wei and 3 people gathered in the studio, and the map was marked with red dots. Xiaolan poured the coffee, and the steam filled it. The mastermind is locked. The mayor's official residence. What's the next step to infiltrate? Jing clenched her fist. I'll follow. Liu Wei nodded, his eyes sharp. Yes. But this time, we are fully armed. The fog of conspiracy has dispersed, but the core is still there. The storm is coming. Outside the window, the sun is dazzling, the pulse of the city is accelerating, the investigation is entering a climax, and Liu Wei's steps are more determined. The sunlight shines through the windows of the studio like broken gold, reflecting the scattered piles of evidence on the table: USB flash drives, photos, and capital flow charts, like a battlefield after a melee. Liu Wei rubbed his temples, the aftermath of last night's press conference still buzzing in his mind. There was a heated discussion on the internet, and the angry voices of citizens pushed the police to take action, but the silence in the mayor's office was like the calm before the storm, which sent shivers down his spine. Xiaolan handed over a cup of black coffee, which was steaming hot and had a bitter aroma. "Detective, don't be in a daze. Yang's confession is solid, but the alibi of the mayor's old fox is an iron wall. When the crime occurred, he was at the charity dinner, which was broadcast live, and there were a lot of witnesses. How to dismantle it?" Liu Wei took the cup, took a sip, and the tip of his tongue was numb. There is a ghost in the live broadcast. The timeline matches, but the background noise is wrong. I listened to the recording again last night. The music in the dinner hall was jazz, but there was a slight sound of car horns, which was from the urban streets. Synthetic? The police were controlled by the upper levels, and the evidence was suppressed. He stood up, walked to the map, and pointed at the mayor's mansion. "We have to go in and find the original video or schedule record. But first, keep calm. She didn't sleep well last night." Jing raised her head from the sofa, with a layer of mist in her eyes. She bit her lip and her voice was as low as a whisper. "Brother Liu, I have something to say. I can't hide it anymore." She took out a stack of yellowed folders from her backpack, with the badge of the city hall printed on the cover, and handed it over. "I am not an ordinary passerby. I am Li, the member's distant niece, Jing. My parents died young, and I was raised by my uncle Li Ming. He gave me these internal documents, saying they were insurance and would be useful if something happened. It contains a development project memo from the mayor and Old Man Wang, which confirms that the land deal is a cover for money laundering, and that uncle is the #1 target on the opposition's list." Liu Wei's eyes widened and he opened the document, and dense notes unfolded like a spider web: fund transfer records, instructions signed by the mayor, and even a blurry photo of a meeting, with Old Man Wang and the mayor whispering, and the logo of the Black Wolf Gang in the background. Xiaolan came closer and frowned. Jing, you hit it deep enough. This document is like a gold mine, pointing directly to the mastermind, the mayor. He controlled the gang and silenced Counselor Li, and the struggle for power was all here. Jing nodded, tears flashing. Uncle warned me before he died not to show up easily. But now, I believe you. These documents can prove that the mayor was not at the dinner when the incident occurred, and he slipped out to direct the assassination. Feeling hot in his heart, Liu Wei held Jing's hand and said firmly in his palm, Jing, thank you. Your identity has been revealed and half of the case has been solved. But the danger is greater, let's join forces. Xiaolan patted Jing's shoulder and said in a brisk tone, Sisters, welcome to join. Liu Wei, a stupid young man, needs our support. The three of them looked at each other and smiled, and the air was filled with the warmth of coffee. At this moment, the team was like an iron triangle, facing the political shady world, no longer isolated. In the afternoon, Liu Wei and Xiaolan went straight to the police headquarters. The obstacles from high-level officials were like invisible walls. The fat policeman blocked the door of the archives room, blew out a smoke ring, and said in a slick tone, Boy, the mayor's evidence? The superiors won't approve it. Your press conference is causing a big fuss, don't cause more trouble. Liu Wei sneered, and the golden finger was running in his mind. The fat man's eyes were evasive, and his tie was crooked, which proved that he had just answered the phone. Control? Officer, Jing's documents are irrefutable evidence. Where is the original video of the mayor's dinner? The traces of synthesis are obvious, and the sound of the car does not match the environment in the hall. The fat policeman's face changed slightly and he hesitated. This must be approved by the leadership. Xiaolan stepped forward, showed his press card, and said in a sharp voice, Approval? The internet has exploded, and the citizens' march is about to happen. You are covering up, and the headline is Police colludes with the mayor. Get out of the way, or I will live broadcast. The fat policeman wiped his sweat, and the door creaked open. Inside, the filing cabinets were like a maze, and the air was stuffy and smelled of musty paper. Liu Wei took out the videotape and inserted it into the player. A picture popped up. The mayor was smiling and delivering a speech, but in the background music, there was the faint sound of street horns and tires. When the time came for dismantling, he zoomed in on the picture. Look here, the shadows are elongated and do not match the lighting, the sound channels are separated, and the music track was added later. The mayor slipped out of the dinner party at 9:20, went straight to the parking lot, and ordered Old Man Wang to take action. Xiaolan recorded the evidence and her eyes flashed. Controlling the police? I'll dig up this fat man's phone records. She whispered to Liu Wei, her shoulder lightly touching his, bringing a touch of warmth. Detective, you have become better. You used to work alone, but now you will use my media gun. Liu Wei smiled, and there was a tacit understanding in his heart. Lan, without you, I would have been blocked to death. Speaking of which, what did you do before you became a reporter? I always think you are so smart that you have stories to tell. Xiaolan paused and leaned against the filing cabinet. Her voice was as soft as the night wind. Okay, let me share. My dad was a small newspaper editor. He investigated corruption 10 years ago and died in a car accident. The police said it was an accident, but I know it was an assassination. From then on, I vowed to dig up the dirt and be an independent reporter. Like you, I seek justice for my loved ones. Her eyes dimmed, and Liu Wei held her hand, palm to palm. Lan, we are the same. When I was a child, my father also died in a political dispute. They said it was an accident, but it was actually a purge from the top. I hid in Li Ming's house and swore to be a detective to tear apart the fog. But before, I was always afraid of making the same mistakes again and was hesitant. Now, Jing's documents in your past have made me see clearly childhood trauma is not a shackle, but a fuel. My reasoning power is stronger because I understand pain. Xiaolan nodded with light in his eyes. Partners, let's get deeper. Let's burn this shady story together. This interaction was like a warm current, and Liu Wei felt his inner transformation. From a timid boy to a man who dared to face trauma, the partnership was like a shield, protecting him as he moved forward. In the evening, the conflict escalated. Liu Wei drove back to the studio alone. On the foggy street, a black shadow flashed across the rearview mirror, a modified Jeep, biting its tail. Assassination? The mayor's revenge has come. His heart beat faster, and he reflected on his childhood. When his father died, he hid in the closet and heard the gunshots, and the fear followed him like a shadow. But now, this trauma has turned into sharp reasoning. The windows of the Jeep are half down, the muzzle is looming, there are 2 drivers, and the remaining gang members of the Black Wolf. At the moment of counterattack, he suddenly turned into the industrial area. The car scraped against the iron fence, sparks emitted, and the smell of rubber hit his nostrils. The Jeep accelerated, bullets hit the rear mirror, and the glass shattered like rain. Liu Wei cursed lowly and saw an abandoned construction site ahead with numerous roadblocks. He pretended to be panicked and slowed down to induce the enemy to overtake. The gunman leaned forward to take aim. He braked hard and the Jeep passed by him. He accelerated and reversed, the rear of the car swung, and the Jeep lost control and hit a roadblock, rolling and smoking. 2 men crawled out, covered in blood. Liu Wei stopped the car, picked up the iron pipe on the ground and rushed forward. The mayor sent you? Tell him, I have the irrefutable evidence, the game is over. The tall man rushed towards him, he sidestepped, hit his knee with a stick, and the man knelt down and wailed. The dwarf fired, but he rolled to the ground to dodge, and locked his throat. Tell me, who gave the order? The man gasped, Wang, old man Wang, the mayor will protect him. Assassinate you and destroy the evidence. Liu Wei called the police and the man was arrested. He gasped and leaned on the car, his shoulders were burning, but his heart was filled with joy. Counterattacking a powerful enemy was not luck, but the courage transformed from the pain of childhood. This growth makes him stronger, reasoning like lightning, and anticipating every move. The next day, a public forum was held at City Hall, packed with media and the air thick with sweat and flashbulb heat. Liu Wei stood on the stage and faced the debater from the mayor's camp, a well-oiled lawyer with a neat suit and an arrogant tone. Mr. Liu, the mayor's dinner proved ironclad. Synthetic? Nonsense. The audience was buzzing, and the citizens looked expectantly. Liu Wei smiled, and the logic in his mind was cut like a knife. Iron plate? Sir, the video channel is separated, and the music track is added later. The angle of the shadow is misplaced, the light is from the west, but the shadow is pulled from the east. I have the original file, which is hidden under the control of the police, but Jing Jing's file has been exposed. The mayor signed an order to silence Counselor Li, development project money laundering, Black Wolf help with execution and Old Man Wang with planning. Shake your camp. He clicked on the projection, and the documents and videos were enlarged. The lawyer turned pale and stammered, This is false. But the audience broke out, with citizens shouting the truth. The mayor's team was cut apart by lies, whispers within the camp, and wavered. At the end of the debate, Liu Wei stepped down. Xiaolan came up to him and hugged his arm. Handsome. His logic is like a blade, cutting them bloody. Jing handed over new documents. Brother Liu, I dug out more from my uncle's safe, the mayor's overseas account password, and the funds are all correct. Liu Wei clicked. Head, eyes sharp, evidence has been gathered. Recordings, photos, funds, confessions, all locked on the mayor. Tomorrow, attack the official residence to capture Old Man Wang's last testimony. Tear open the shady story. Outside the window, the setting sun is like blood, the pulse of the city is accelerating, and the storm is getting ready. The afterglow of the setting sun sprinkled like blood on the glass curtain wall of the city hall, casting long shadows. Liu and Wei squeezed out of the crowd and stepped on the stone steps in a hurry. The air was filled with the stuffy smell of sweat and perfume. Xiaolan's tablet buzzed and vibrated, and notifications kept popping up. She glanced at it, and her eyes lit up. The internet is exploding. My report has been forwarded 100,000 times, and citizens' messages down with the mayor have flooded the screen. I have just blocked 3 calls from the top brass of the police, saying, stop making trouble and resolve it privately. To break their pressure, start with the media. Liu Wei nodded, and when he opened the door, his cell phone rang. It was a fat policeman from the police station. His voice was as smooth as a layer of wax. "Boy Liu, that guy Young did it again this morning. He said that old man Wang not only planned this assassination, but also a series of purges. Last year the 3 opposition congressmen were all swayed by the Black Wolf gang. The mayor personally gave the order to ensure that the development project went smoothly." His confession brought down the upper wall. "But be careful, there is a party in old man Wang's mansion tonight, so don't mess around." After hanging up the phone, Liu Wei's heartbeat accelerated, and the golden fingers in his mind were running fast. Yang's betrayal turned into a boost, and the pawn's confession was like a domino, knocking them all down in one fell swoop. Power purge? Congressman Li is not the only one. This conspiracy is like an iceberg, with only the sharpest tip emerging from the water. Lan, you launched a media offensive to expose the details of Yang's confession and force the police to take action. Jing, where's your witness video? Can the blurry video you mentioned last night confirm that Mr. Wang was in the SUV? Jing leaned out from the back seat, her cheeks were slightly red, and her voice was as firm as a different person. "Brother Liu, I'm brave for once. The video was taken by my mobile phone. It was shaking badly on the night of the crime, but old Wang's beard and gold watch were clearly visible after zooming in. He got on the car from the back door and said to Yong, 'Quickly, deal with that person who was in the way.' I edited it this morning and sent it to Sister Xia. She was exposed, and I stood up to testify." Xia Lan turned her head and held Jing's hand, her palms warm. "Good girl, if you take this step, you are no longer a victim, but a hero. I will go online immediately with the title Witness Exposure. Mayor's advisor Mr. Wang personally attended the assassination scene. The media is like a flood. Once out of control, the pressure on the upper management will collapse." Her fingers were flying, and the crisp sound of typing on the keyboard echoed in the car. Liu Wei looked at the two of them, and a warm current surged in his heart. The tacit understanding of the team allowed him to transform from a detective working alone to a fighter leading the charge. The boy who hid in the closet in his childhood has long since died, replaced by fearless flames. The night pours like ink, and the mayor's official residence is located on a suburban hillside. The mansion is brightly lit, like a squatting beast. Liu Wei parked his car on the trail near the forest, put on night vision goggles, wrapped in black clothes, and stuffed his pockets with gadgets. Her whisper came from Xiaolan's earphones. "Detective, Mr. Wang is in the study, and the safe is there according to Yang's confession. The core evidence, the purge list and transfer records, are all encrypted. But the media offensive has worked. Thousands of people have been called on for an online demonstration. The police have just issued a statement, saying thorough investigation of the mayor. Jing's video has been broadcast, and the citizens are angry. Be careful, the mansion has dogs and surveillance cameras on security." Liu Wei took a deep breath. The air was filled with the freshness of pine needles and the smell of barbecue smoke in the distance. He climbed over the fence, his footsteps as light as ghosts, and the grass rustled. The chase escalated from here. The shadow of the trees behind him swayed, and a flashlight swept across. His heart tightened, and he rolled into the bushes. 2 bodyguards in black were patrolling, their footsteps heavy as a drumbeat. One of them whispered, "The boss said someone is coming to steal something, so keep an eye on the study." The route flashed in Liu Wei's mind. There is a gap in the iron grill of the side door, and the dog is on the east side. He waited for the opportunity, and when the bodyguard turned around, he jumped over the wall. When he landed, his knees hit the stone, which hurt like needles. But he gritted his teeth and endured it. His fearless courage was as strong as iron, and he went straight to the main building. The curtains in the study were half closed, the lights inside were dim, and old man Wang's shadow stretched on the wall, like a twisted demon. He smoked alone and yelled on the phone, "Mayor, Yong, that kid is doing it all. The media is making a big fuss. What's going on with Jing's video? That girl is Li's niece? Damn it, our purge plan." Liu Wei's heartbeat was like thunder, and Jing's brave revelation pushed the climax. The video was like a bomb, exploding the shell of the conspiracy. He took advantage of the king's back to pry open the window lock and slipped into the room. The air was filled with the strong smell of cigars and the musty smell of old books. The safe was behind the bookshelf. Liu Wei put on his gloves, entered the password for Yang's confession, the start date of the development project plus the Black Wolf code, and opened it with a click. Inside was a stack of documents and an encrypted USB flash drive. He grabbed the USB flash drive and his mind raced with reasoning. Cracking it would prove that the assassination was a power purge. Feeling better, he squatted under the table, connected to his laptop, and the decryption software in the small tool bag was humming. The folder name was Shadow Project, with 3 layers of encryption. He entered Jing's file key, and the first layer opened, the date of Yang's confession. The second layer was broken, and the last layer, the golden finger in his mind was like lightning, Old Man Wang's birthday plus Mayor's code name. After inputting, the screen popped up. Documents are pouring out like a flood. Not only Congressman Li, but also the 5 assassinations last year were all ordered by the mayor. Old Man Wang wrote in his own handwriting, purge the opposition and ensure the money laundering of the project. The Black Wolf gang will execute it. The funds will flow overseas, and the mayor will share 60%. The next target, the leader of the investigation team, that boy Liu Wei. Liu Wei's eyes widened, and the reversal was as shocking as a lightning strike. There was more than one conspiracy, it was a systematic cleansing, and the mayor had the power to silence all those who interfered. Even Li Ming's father was not the first. Liu Wei's father's accidental car accident was also on the list. The truth about childhood trauma cuts through the heart like a sharp knife. He clenched his fists and had an inner monologue, "Dad, it turns out you are also a victim. This shocking conspiracy has turned me from a detective into a fighter. I want to burn this shady story." But the crisis suddenly struck, and there were quick steps outside the door. Old Wan hung up the phone and shouted, "Who's in there?" "Bodyguard." Liu Wei picked up the USB flash drive and rushed to the window. The sound of shattering glass was heard. He jumped out and rolled into the flower bed when he landed, with dirt splashing all over his face. The chase escalated, gunfire exploded in the night sky, bullets grazed tree trunks, and sawdust flew. 2 bodyguards rushed towards me, their flashlights were like sharp swords, and their dogs were barking like wild beasts. Liu Wei was fearless, his childhood fear turned into fuel, and he rushed into the forest, his footsteps breaking dead branches with a crunching sound. "Damn it, boy, stop!" The bodyguard fired, and the bark of the tree exploded, and the painful wood chips scratched his arm, but he did not stop, predicting the route in his mind, the stream ahead, you can drift. He rushed to the stream, the gurgling sound was bone-chilling, and jumped into the shallow water, splashing with water. The bodyguard followed, and a tall man took aim with a gun. "Mr. Wang said, capture him alive and destroy the evidence." Liu Wei turned around, grabbed the creek rock and threw it at him, hitting the tall man's wrist, and the gun flew into the water. Another dwarf rushed towards him, he dodged sideways and kicked his knee. The dwarf fell to his knees and howled. In the crisis of life and death, Liu Wei's courage burst out, like a tiger descending from the mountain. He locked the tall man's neck and growled, "Tell Mr. Wang that the conspiracy has been exposed. The mayor's purge plan is all in this USB drive. The game is over." The tall man struggled, his face turned red. What do you know? The mayor is the governor of the province, and you can't escape from the higher-level network." Liu Wei let go, the alarm earphones were turned on, and the sirens were approaching faintly. He shook off his pursuers and climbed ashore. His clothes were soaked and stuck to his body, and he was as cold as a knife. But he felt a surge of joy in his heart. This crack was like a climax, and the reversal shocked him. His father's death was not an accident, but a victim of the darkness of power. The turning point in his growth is quiet. He did not flinch in the face of a gun, and was as fearless as steel. This was a leap from detective to justice fighter. Jing's exposure, Yang's help, and Xiaolan's media made him not alone. The car engine roared, and he escaped from pursuit and rushed out of the forest area. In the earphones, Xiaolan's voice was urgent, "Detective. Are you okay?" After Jing's video was broadcast, Old Man Wang's mansion was surrounded and the police took action. But the mayor issued an emergency declaration, saying it was false evidence. "Where's the USB flash drive? Come back quickly and let's meet up." Liu Wei gasped and tightened his grip on the steering wheel. "I got it, Lan. The conspiracy is bigger, a series of purges, and Dad's death is also involved. The decisive battle is coming, and the shadow of the governor appears. We go straight to the police station and expose everything." The night wind howled, the rearview mirror was empty, but a bigger storm was quietly approaching. The headlights pierced the night fog, and Liu Wei's Ford rushed into the studio alley like a runaway horse. The tires squeaked on the slippery asphalt, and the residual heat of the engine gave off a faint smell of tar. He opened the car door, his soaked clothes clinging to his body, and the cold stream water was still sloshing in his shoes. The USB flash drive was held tightly in the palm of his hand, like a piece of red-hot iron, which made his heart churn. As soon as the door opened, Xiaolan and Jing greeted them. The lights in the studio were as warm and yellow as home, the coffee machine purred, and the air was filled with the bitter aroma of fresh brew. "Detective? What's wrong with your arm?" "It's bleeding." Xiaolan rushed forward and grabbed his sleeve, her eyes full of anxiety. She pulled out the first aid kit from the drawer, her movements as neat as a veteran's, and her fingers trembled slightly as she gently pressed on the wound. Jing handed over the hot towel, her eyes red. "Brother Liu, I heard gunshots. Did you get the USB flash drive?" Liu Wei sat down, took a breath, plugged in the computer, the screen lit up, and documents poured out like a flood. He rubbed his brows and said in a low voice, "Not only did he get it, he also blew it up. The shadow plan, the mayor's purge list, not only Counselor Li, but also Dad's car accident. A series of assassinations, all to launder money to protect development projects. Old Man Wang is the knife, the mayor is the brains, and the Black Wolf Gang is the hands. The weaknesses are locked, overseas accounts, funds flow to Swiss banks, and the password is in an encrypted USB disk. Cracking it can prove the mayor's private treasury." Xiaolan came closer to the screen, her keyboard flying, and her brows furrowed. "I'll try. My hacker friend owes me a favor. This encryption is an old trick in politics. Numbers and symbols are converted into project keywords." She tapped a few times, and the screen popped up. The transfer record was as clear as a knife, the mayor's pseudonym was Dragonhead, and he made tens of millions of dollars every month, and the Black Wolf Gang laundered the land payment. Jing poured a cup of hot cocoa and handed it to Liu Wei with a firm voice. "Brother Liu, this evidence is ironclad. My uncle's documents have been completed, and the mayor's alibi has been fully read. The video of the dinner was synthesized, he slipped out at 9:20, Director Zhao contacted him, and Old Man Wang commanded the gunman. I testify, I saw the bearded face in the SUV with my own eyes." Liu Wei nodded, feeling warm in his heart. This team has a tacit understanding and is as solid as an iron chain. In the past, he always carried it alone for fear of dragging others down. Now, Jing's bravery and Xiaolan's agility make him feel like he has an extra pair of wings. "Okay, Jing, you take the confession and I'll plan the action. Contact Yong first. That kid is in prison. He can be of great help if he repents." The call was made to the police station, and Yong's voice came from the other end, as hoarse as a chain smoker. "Detective Liu. I've done it all. I'm sorry, Councilman Li was the one who was harmed. But Old Man Wang will meet with the mayor tonight, in the basement of the official residence, to discuss the escape plan. They know that the USB flash drive is lost, and a counterattack is coming. The remnants of the gang are eyeing your studio, and the political lawyers are suppressing the police. Help me reduce my sentence, and I will cooperate and give you inside information." Liu Wei squinted his eyes, and his golden fingers were running in his mind. Bravery and regret are like a turning point, this little pawn becomes the key to the game. "Okay, tell me, what is Old Man Wang's weakness?" Yong gasped. "He has a heart disease, and the medicine is in the study drawer. Set a trap to lure him into taking the medicine. The mayor's next step is to silence the witnesses. Jing and Xiaolan are in danger first. After hanging up, Liu Wei stood up with sharp eyes. The counterattack is coming. Xiaolan, you guard the studio, expose Yang's cooperative confession, and the media will add fuel to the fire. Jing, you go to the police station to record the testimony, and I will set up a trap to catch Wang's men. The mastermind's weakness is panic, and they will rush to destroy the evidence. The night wind howled as Liu Wei drove around the street, predicting the mastermind's next move. Old Man Wang was in a panic and would send the rest of the Black Wolf gang to grab the USB flash drive and keep an eye on Jing's whereabouts first. He deliberately slowed down the car and turned into the intersection leading to the police station. 2 motorcycles flashed across his rearview mirror, and the engine roared like a wolf. Follow. Liu Wei sneered, feeling refreshed in his heart. This was his prediction, the moment when he set a trap. He braked hard and stopped in a small park on the side of the road. He pretended to get off the car and smoke. As the motorcycle approached, 2 bearded men jumped down. The chains in their hands shone coldly. Boy, hand over the USB drive. Mr. Wang said I will spare you. Liu Wei stepped back, logic running in his mind. The tall man is left-handed, and the short man has an old leg injury. He threw away his cigarette butt and ran into the park trees, making a rustle of dead leaves under his footsteps. The man caught up with him, and the tall man swung his chain to hit him. He sidestepped, grabbed a brick from the ground, and smashed it into the short man's knees. The man wailed and knelt down. Boss, he has an ambush. Liu Wei locked the tall man's neck and growled, Old Man Wang sent you. Tell him that the trap was dug for you. There are 3 copies of the USB disk, all of which are in the police. The tall man struggled, his face turned red. The mayor's network chief, you. Before he could finish his words, Liu Wei kneeled on his stomach and the man collapsed. The siren sounded and Xiaolan called the police. 2 of his men were arrested. Liu Wei gasped and leaned against a tree, his sweat mixed with night dew sliding down his face. This battle of wits resolved, like a counterattack with a sharp blade, so satisfying that he clenched his fists, predicting the enemy's movements, setting up an ambush to capture him. This was his growth, from passive to active. The police station was brightly lit and bustling with people. The fat policeman came forward. His face was no longer as smooth as before, and his eyes were complicated. Liu, boy, this time, thank you. Your evidence prevented us from moving, but tens of thousands of citizens marched, and the provincial department ordered a thorough investigation. Jing's confession was recorded, and she overturned all alibi. The mayor's dinner synthesis, Zhao's airport fake, Yang's ball game editor, they were all gangster tricks. We used Old Man Wang's heart disease. Liu Wei nodded, his heart turning quietly. Winning the respect of the police was a thundering affirmation. In the past, he viewed the police as an obstacle. Now, the fat man's eyes were respectful, making him feel like he was no longer a lone wolf. Officer, please cooperate. You disk fund flow, lock the mayor's overseas account. Plan to arrest, raid the basement of the official residence tonight. Yang's insider said that Old Man Wang will meet the mayor there. The fat policeman hesitated and patted Liu Wei on the shoulder. Okay, you take the lead. We will hold back. But the gangs joined forces with the political community to fight back fiercely. The lawyer team just applied for an injunction, saying that the evidence was false. In the studio, Xiaolan's tablet was so hot that she pressed the last key, her voice excited. The final information is here. My informant dug up the mayor's private mailbox, Old Man Wang's email, at 10 o'clock tonight, burned the remaining documents in the basement of the official residence, and then escaped to Switzerland. The fund password matches the USB flash drive, irrefutable proof. Jing's video has been broadcast, and public outrage has exploded online. The hot search for Mayor Purge's counselors has exceeded 100 million. Jing clenched her fists with steely eyes. Brother Liu, I testify to overthrow everything. My uncle's death and my dad's car accident were all because of this shady incident. I'm not afraid anymore. Liu Wei smiled, and the team worked together to show tacit understanding. The 3 of them bumped their fists. Let's work together. Bravely cooperate. Old Man Wang's men have been arrested. Now, the evidence is disclosed and arouses public outrage. A midnight press conference was held in the city square. On a makeshift stage, flashlights poured down like a torrential rain, and the air was filled with the smell of mud and crowd sweat after the rain. The citizens gathered around and shouted the truth. Liu Wei stood on the stage with a sonorous voice. "Everyone, behind the assassination of Congressman Li is the mayor's shadow plan." A series of purges, all the opposition was silenced. The evidence is here: USB flash drive funds, Jing's witness video, Yang's confession, and Old Man Wang's emails are all open to the public. He clicked on the projection, and the picture exploded like a bomb. The transfer records were bloody, the purge list was shocking, and Old Wang's bearded face in Jing's video was as clear as a knife. The audience was silent for a moment, and then erupted, with citizens roaring like thunder, "Arrest the mayor! Thunder for justice!" Public outrage spread like wildfire, and parades rushed to the official residence. The media broadcast it live across the country, and phone calls to provincial offices exploded. Xiaolan broadcast live in the audience, her voice passionate, "This is a victory for the citizens. The corrupt system has collapsed." Jing held Liu Wei's hand, tears flashing. "Brother Liu, we did it." The fat policeman led the team to the stage and saluted. "Detective Liu, from now on, you are our partner. You have earned this respect." Liu Wei's heart felt hot, and his inner transformation was like breaking out of a cocoon. His childhood fears and his father's unjust death all turned into fearless flames. He is no longer the hesitant young detective, but a leader of justice, earning respect that straightens his spine. "Thanks, officer." But the mastermind is still there. Residence basement, raid, let's go now. The motorcade's engines roared as it rushed towards the suburban hillside, and the lights of the official residence flickered like willows. Liu Wei was in the car in front, and Xiaolan whispered in the earphone, "Detective, Old Man Wang has gone into the basement, and the mayor's shadow is at the door. The tension is at its peak, catch him alive." The gunshots were faint, and the remaining gang members made a final counterattack. In the night wind, the decisive battle was approaching. The motorcade's police lights flashed like blue and red will-o'-the-wisps, tearing through the night fog and heading straight for the iron gate of the mayor's mansion. Liu Wei was in the car in front, holding the steering wheel tightly, his palms as slippery as if he were holding a cold snake. In the earphones, Xiaolan's voice was as fast as her heartbeat. "Detective, the drone captured the entrance to the basement. 2 black wolf remnants were guarding the door. The voices of Old Man Wang and the mayor came out. They are burning documents. The police are closing in, and you lead the team to rush in." I started the live broadcast, and the whole network was in real time. The citizens' parade had arrived outside the official residence, shouting, "Catch the mayor! Stay calm in the police car, preparing your testimony." Liu Wei took a deep breath. The air was filled with the crispness of pine and the burnt smell of distant fireworks. The high walls of the official residence were like a cage, and the searchlights swept the night sky. An unprecedented calmness filled his heart. The boy hiding in the closet in his childhood, the sound of his father's gunfire still echoed in his ears, but now, the pain has turned into a sharp knife. He whispered, "Lan, don't stop the live broadcast. This is our thunder. Jing, hold on, you are the key." Jing in the back seat nodded, her voice trembling but firm. "Brother Liu, I'm ready. Uncle's death and Dad's injustice are all taken into account." The iron door burst open, and police cars filed in, their tires crunching against the gravel. The remnants of the gang counterattacked fiercely. 3 bald men sprang out from the bushes, armed with submachine guns, and rained bullets on the convoy. Liu Wei braked hard, rolled down the door, picked up a fallen police pistol on the ground, and with his heart beating like a war drum, spread out. "Fat officer, outflank the left wing, I'll go straight to the basement." The sound of gunshots was deafening, bullets grazed the car body, sparks flew everywhere, and the air was filled with the pungent smell of gunpowder. A man rushed towards him. Liu Wei sidestepped and kicked his knee. The guy knelt down and wailed, "The mayor will not spare you." Liu Wei locked his throat and growled, "The gang is over, and the financial line is completely cut off. Tell Old Man Wang that I brought his medicine." He took out Old Man Wang's heart medicine bottle from his pocket. He had taken it from the study last night and threw it on the ground. Panic flashed in the man's eyes. During the melee, Liu Wei led two plainclothes men and rushed to the side building. Their footsteps were slippery on the wet grass. The entrance to the basement was hidden behind the rockery in the garden. The iron door was ajar, and low voices of argument came from inside. "Mayor, the documents are burned, but that guy Liu Wei has a USB flash drive." Jing's video was broadcast, and the whole network went crazy. "Our shadow plan." Old Man Wang's voice was as hoarse as sandpaper. Liu Wei signaled his men to guard the door, and he pushed open the iron door. The stairs were narrow and damp, and the air was hot and stifling with the smell of burnt paper. The golden fingers in his mind were running like precision gears. The mayor's ultimate alibi, the live broadcast of the charity dinner, was ironclad, but the USB flash drive email showed that he left at 9:15, changed into a bodyguard, and went straight to the basement to take command. The weaknesses of synthetic video, including channel noise and shadow dislocation, all lie in Jing's testimony. The lights in the basement were dim, like candles in hell. The mayor, that old political fox in his early 60s, with a messy suit and a livid face, was throwing documents into the shredder. Old Man Wang leaned against the table, sweating on his forehead, pressing his hand on his chest, his gray beard trembling. "Boss, the governor will not sit idly by, our overseas network." The mayor turned around and saw Liu Wei, his eyes like poisonous snakes. "Boy, you broke in? This is a private house, there is no search warrant." Liu Wei stepped forward, pointed the gun, and his voice was as steady as a knife. "Mayor, the game is over. You are not here. Proof, it's the ultimate trick, dinner live broadcast synthesis. You sneak out at 9:15, change into the clothes of a Black Wolf bodyguard, and come to the basement to order the assassination." Weakness? The video channel has streetcars honking, and the jazz track is added later. The shadows are elongated and do not match the hall lights. Judging from the light from the east window, you were in the car at the time. The USB flash drive email confirmed, you personally ordered Mr. Wang to burn the files to cover up the shadow plan. The mayor's face turned pale and he forced a smile. "Nonsense. Where's the evidence? There are witnesses in the live broadcast." Old Wang gasped and grabbed the medicine bottle on the table, his hands shaking like chaff. "Boy, what do you know? This is a power game. Congressman Li is in the way, cleaning up the personal insurance project." Liu Wei sneered, and the logical chain in his mind cut through the darkness. The development project was a cover, the land was sold to the Black Wolf gang for money laundering, the funds flowed to Switzerland, and the mayor got 60%. The series of assassination lists, Dad's car accident, Assemblyman Li, and the other three opposition parties are all part of the purge network of the governor's faction. Evidence? Here. He took out the USB flash drive and inserted it into the old computer in the basement. The screen popped up, the transfer records were bloody, the email instructions were clear, and Old Man Wang's notes were shocking. The mayor's eyes widened, he took a step back, knocked over the chair, and made a loud noise. "This is impossible. How do you crack it?" The moment of refreshing counterattack has come. Liu Wei leaned forward, his voice like thunder, simple logic, golden finger reasoning. "The password is your birthday plus the provincial governor's code name. I inferred from Yang's confession. The documents are layered, like your lies, peeling off layer by layer. Jing's witness video, matched with the profile of the SUV, your shadow, Old Man Wang's beard, all match. The gang has collapsed, all remaining members have been arrested. Your network is like a sandcastle, and it will collapse as soon as the citizens are angry." Old Man Wang felt severe pain in his chest, and the hand holding the medicine trembled. Liu Wei stepped forward and kicked the bottle open. "Old man, I don't want to take the medicine. Your heart disease is a sign of panic. Come on, the shadow of the governor will also be exposed." The gunshots outside the door stopped, and the fat policeman led the team in, handcuffs flashing. "Mayor, Old Man Wang, you are under arrest. The evidence is all there, and the provincial department has ordered a thorough investigation." The mayor slumped down, his face ashen, muttering, "Provincial governor, he will save me. But Liu Wei shook his head. No. Xiaolan's live broadcast, the whole country watched. Your power cuts through the darkness like a sharp blade, and justice comes. Old man Wang collapsed, knelt down and cried, I'll do it. The mayor was the mastermind, and the governor acquiesced. The cleaning plan started 5 years ago. Dad's car accident. Liu Wei, your dad was the first to get in the way. Liu Wei's heart was shocked. The truth about his father's unjust death came flooding in, but he did not collapse. Instead, he was as calm as a lake. The turning point of growth is quiet at this moment, from a vulnerable young detective to a fighter who faces the mastermind. This justice is not revenge, but the destination of inner peace. Childhood fear turned into strength, and he whispered, Dad, I did it. The fat policeman handcuffed the mayor and dragged him out of the basement. The parade outside was thundering and the flashlights were like a rainstorm. At the same time, the popularity of Xiaolan's live broadcast room exceeded 100 million. She stood outside the official residence, holding the microphone tightly and speaking passionately, Dear viewers, the climax is here. Detective Liu Wei broke into the basement, dismantled the mayor's alibi, and the USB flash drive exposed the shadow plan, a series of assassinations and a money laundering network, all targeting the mastermind. The gang collapsed, the political world was shaken, and the provincial department has sent an investigation team. This is a victory for the citizens. My reporting, starting from the case of Mr. Li, finally broke the shady story. Honor? Give the truth. Hero Xiaolan was flooded with online barrages. Her cell phone kept ringing. Media invitations were pouring in. The independent reporter became famous overnight. She hung up a call from the editor-in-chief of a provincial newspaper, turned around and blinked at the camera, but this is not the end. Jing's testimony will be a fatal blow. In the police car, Jing took a deep breath, faced the camera, and said in a clear voice, I am Assemblyman Li's niece Jing. On the night of the crime, I witnessed an SUV, Mr. Wang got into the car, and the mayor's shadow was beside him, whispering, Get rid of the trouble. The video and documents all confirmed the purge plan. I regained my freedom and no longer hide. Uncle, justice has come. The testimony was like a knife, cutting through the darkness at the end, and the police nodded, irrefutable evidence, present to the court for a public trial. Outside the basement, Liu Wei walked out, the night breeze blowing away his sweat. He watched the mayor being escorted into the car, his eyes no longer hesitating. The fat policeman patted his shoulder, Boy, you counterattacked. From a weakling to a leader, you are the soul of this case. Liu Wei smiled, and his heart was as calm as the rising sun, justice, not coolness, but responsibility. Dad, Congressman Li, rest in peace. Xiaolan ran over and hugged his arm, Detective, we won. Jing is free, my report won the award, and the team will last forever. Jing greeted him, the three of them hugged each other, the lights of the mansion gradually went out, and the siren went away. All the evidence was presented to the court, including USB flash drives, videos, confessions, and capital flows. Victory is in sight, and the shadow of the governor looms, but tonight, justice comes like thunder. Liu Wei drove away. In the rearview mirror, the neon lights of the city were reborn, the darkness was cut away, and a new dawn came quietly. The morning light shone like mist through the gaps in the curtains of the studio. When Liu Wei pushed open the door and entered, the bitter aftertaste of last night's coffee still lingered in the air. Xiaolan was curled up on the sofa, holding her tablet to her chest, her eyes half open and half closed, while Jing was leaning against the wall, holding a cup of cool hot cocoa in her hand, with a lightness of rebirth in her eyes. The three of them chatted until dawn last night. The evidence of the USB flash drive was like a huge stone weighing on their hearts, but it was also like the key to liberation, opening the end of this storm. Detective, you're back. Last night's raid made the internet go crazy. Xiaolan rubbed her eyes, sat up, her voice was sleepy but excited. She came closer to Liu Wei, touched his arm lightly, and warmed her palms. The moment the mayor was handcuffed, the live broadcast barraged to a halt. The citizens' march dispersed, but the public anger is still burning. The provincial investigation team flew in this morning, and the fat police officer sent a message saying that all suspects, Yong, Zhao, and Old Man Wang, will be handed over to the public trial. Where is the aftermath? The sporadic remnants of the Black Wolf gang are still making trouble? Liu Wei took off his coat and shook off the earthy smell on it. When he sat down, the old injury on his shoulder ached faintly. He nodded, and the gold finger-like logic in his mind was still running, predicting the final obstacle. There are 3 or 2 remaining gang members, 2 were arrested last night, and this morning the fat police officer said that one was hiding in a suburban warehouse and trying to burn the last financial records. But their legal team is troublesome. The mayor's personal team, political veterans, will stir up trouble in court. Where is Yong? Have you fully confessed? Jing put down her cup and her voice was as clear as a morning bell. Brother Liu, I went to the police station last night to make up for my confession, and Yong was there. He cried and said that he was all charged. He was not pretending. He said that the debt owed to the gang was set up by Old Man Wang. He started as an assistant and was kidnapped. The day before the crime, there was a secret meeting in the cafe. Old Man Wang gave him money and asked him to lure Uncle Li to the parking lot to create an ambush in a blind spot. Yong's football game was not going to happen. The evidence at the scene was all a combination of gangsters paying off neighbors and surveillance. He regretted it and said he was sorry to Brother Li Ming and to me, his little niece. She smiled, tears flashing in her eyes, but she was more relieved. My testimony has solidified the irrefutable evidence. The profile of the SUV, Old Man Wang's beard, the gold watch, all matched the email on the USB flash drive. Sister Xiao's exposure left them nowhere to hide. Xiaolan nodded, pulled out the file from the tablet, and handed it to Liu Wei. My testimony has also been recorded. As a reporter, I dug up the original transfer form of the mayor's overseas account, from the Black Wolf gang's money laundering to the Swiss bank. The timeline matched every assassination. The remaining party obstacles? This morning I posted a follow-up report titled, Embers of the Shady Story, the Mayor's Lawyer's Fig Leaf, and it exploded online again. Citizens were under great pressure, and the lawyer's application for an injunction was directly rejected by the provincial department. Liu Wei, we will definitely win. Liu Wei looked at the document and felt relieved. This case started with Li Ming's phone call, like a long night run, and now we finally see the finish line. He rubbed Jing's hair and whispered, Jing, you have changed from a passerby to a witness. This is a big change. Xiaolan, your media gun, fired from the beginning to the end. Yong's confession has sealed the last loophole. The aftermath has been dealt with, and everyone has been brought to justice. But the final threat is still there. The mayor's lawyer leader, the old fox Lawyer Li, sent a message this morning, saying that everything will be proved in court to be a conspiracy theory. We have to prepare for war. At noon, the court hall was bustling with people, and the air was filled with the smell of leather shoe wax and nervous sweat. Liu Wei was sitting in the plaintiff's seat, Xiaolan and Jing were in the audience area, and the fat police officers were holding the line. The mayor was handcuffed and escorted to the dock. His face was as pale as paper. Old Man Wang and Director Zhao followed behind, their eyes evasive. As a tainted witness, Yong walked up to the witness stand tremblingly in prison uniform. Your Honor, I did everything. The mayor ordered, Old Man Wang planned, and I executed. In the blind spot of the parking lot, I drove the SUV to lead the way, and the gunman was from the Black Wolf gang. The money was laundered from the development project and distributed to us. I'm sorry, Congressman Li. Defense lawyer Li stood up, his suit straight, and his tone was as smooth as a snake. Witness Mr. Yong, you have a history of mental problems, and this confession is the product of coercion. The plaintiff's USB flash drive? Synthetic fake evidence. The witness, Ms. Jing, is just an ordinary passerby. The video is blurry and cannot be verified. He turned to the judge with a confident smile. This is political persecution. The live broadcast of the mayor's dinner is irrefutable evidence. He cannot slip out. The courtroom buzzed with reporters' pens flying. Liu Wei stood up and asked for a statement. His voice was steady but like a sharp knife being drawn out of a sheath. Your Honor, the defense said it lightly, but its logic is full of loopholes. Let me dismantle it one by one. He walked towards the evidence projection, and the golden finger in his mind was running like a precision machine. The first exciting moment came, the court-crushing moment. The air seemed to freeze, and all eyes were fixed on him. Let's talk about Yang's confession first. It's not coercion, it's remorse. Cross-verification, his SUV GPS data circled from the blind spot to the warehouse, with a timestamp of 9:52, which matches the black box record. The testimony of his neighbor, Uncle Wang, has been reversed. The money was given by Old Man Wang. The details of the gain were edited after the fact. The TV picture quality is blurry, and he cannot remember the climax goal. Lawyer Li pouted, GPS can be forged. Liu Wei sneered and clicked on the U-disk screen. Forged? The original data is on the provincial server with triple encryption. I personally verified it last night. Keywords for the password conversion development project: development 7, development 8, project 9, project 10, plus the Black Wolf code 12. This is a gangster habit and is not made up casually. Defense, it's the turn of the dinner live broadcast. Synthetic? The vocals were split, the jazz track was added in, and there were street cars honking in the background, impossible in a charity hall. The angle of the shadow is wrong, the light is from the east, but the shadow is from the west. Physical evidence cannot deceive people. The mayor left at 9:15, changed into a bodyguard, went straight to the basement, and ordered to get rid of those who were in the way. In the quiet video, looking at the profile of the SUV, Mr. Wang's beard and gold watch are clearly visible. Xiaolan whispered to Jing in the auditorium, "Look, Liu Wei's logic is like a knife, making them bleed." Jing nodded, her eyes full of admiration. Liu Wei continued with a sonorous voice, "Overseas capital flows, Swiss bank transfers, alias Dragonhead, tens of millions per month, from land laundering to cleaning lists, Dad's car accident, Counselor Li, and the other 3 opposition parties, all in the shadow plan. Yang's confession, Old Man Wang's notes, and my USB flash drive are all locked up." Defense, this is not a conspiracy theory, it is ironclad evidence. The mayor's power is dark and cut apart, and justice must come. The court was silent, Lawyer Li's face was ashen, and he stammered, This needs time to be verified." The judge hammered, "The plaintiff's argument is strong, but the defense's evidence is weak." The court is adjourned, and the evidence will be sent to the provincial department for testing. The mayor, Old Man Wang, Zhao, and Yong are all in custody pending trial. The whole place erupted in whispers, reporters swarmed, Xiaolan's live broadcast started again, and the barrage king of logic flooded the screen. When Liu Wei left the table, Lawyer Li glared at him and threatened in a low voice, "Boy, you will regret it." The mayor has backups, and a phone call from the governor can turn the tables. This was the ultimate threat, and Liu Wei's heart tightened. In the afternoon, outside the studio, a black car parked at the alley. 2 men in suits got out of the car and went straight to the door. Xiaolan was alert and pressed the alarm, "Liu Wei, they are coming." The mayor's lawyer Yu Dang is trying to threaten Jing to leave. Liu Wei rushed out, his mind racing, the solution to wisdom is here. The 2 men blocked Jing and said in a gloomy tone, "Miss, come with us. We have something to ask in the governor's office. Otherwise, your uncle's old cases will be dug up to ruin your reputation." Jing retreated, her face turned pale. Liu Wei stepped forward, smiled, took out his mobile phone, and pressed record, "Gentlemen, Governor." "Interesting. Jing is a witness, touching her is obstruction of justice. Want to threaten? Listen to this first." He played the screenshot of the email from last night, and the name of the governor faintly emerged. The deep file of the USB flash drive contained a letter from the mayor. The governor acquiesces to the shadow plan. The 2 men were stunned, and Liu Wei whispered, "This recording has been sent to the provincial department. If you take action, you will fall into a trap. Let's go, back up. The governor is under investigation, and the mayor's phone number cannot be reached." The men exchanged glances, returned to the car dejectedly, and left with the engine roaring. Jing breathed a sigh of relief and hugged Liu Wei. Brother Liu, you are so smart. Predict their threats, counter them with evidence, and resolve them completely. Xiaolan clapped her hands. Yes. This is your golden finger. Wisdom is like a shield, blocking the last hidden arrow. As the sun set, the three of them sat around the table in the studio. The fat policeman brought a beer to celebrate. The foam overflowed the rim of the cup, and the cool aroma of wheat filled the air. Yang's message also came. Detective Liu, thank you. I will stand by you during the trial. I have confessed everything, and I have vomited all the inside stories about the gang. Reduced sentence? Whatever. Liu Wei raised his glass and touched Xiaolan and Jing's. Cheers. After the aftermath has been dealt with, all the suspects, the mayor, Old Man Wang, Zhao, and the rest of the Black Wolf gang, have all been brought to justice. The provincial investigation team has been stationed, and the tail of the shadow plan will be dug out. Xiaolan came closer, leaning against him with her shoulder, and her eyes were soft. Detective, you have changed along the way. From the hesitant boy who answered Li Ming's call, to the sharp knife that crushed the court, to the wise man who resolved the threat. The growth is heartwarming. Jing nodded and held his hand. Brother Liu, let's review. The death of my father in childhood was originally painful, but now it has become fuel. You tore apart the dark curtain, sought justice for your uncle, and established faith for yourself. Justice is not something to be waited for, but to be fought for. Liu Wei looked at the sunset outside the window, his heart turning like a tide of calm. He looked back on the process, from the shell casings in the parking lot, to the exhilaration of dismantling Yang's testimony, to the gunfire in the basement raid. Every step was like a transformation. Childhood fear once made him timid. Li Ming's tears lit the first fire. Xiaolan's intelligence and Jing's bravery turned him from a lone wolf to a leader. Yes, I always wanted to carry it alone in the past, afraid of making the same mistake as my father. But this case taught me that justice is the torch of the team. My faith has become stronger. In the face of the darkness of power, I will always reason and always rush. Dad, Congressman Li, rest in peace. The three of them looked at each other and laughed, their beer glasses clinking loudly. The fat policeman pushed open the door and walked in. Boys, the provincial department is called, and the public trial will be scheduled for next week. The mayor's arrest warrant will be executed tonight, all remaining parties will be cleared, and the thunder of justice will come. Liu Wei nodded, feeling a warm stream of satisfaction in his heart. At this moment, emotion sublime, the team feels like home, and the story is in sight. Outside the window, the city lights are gradually brightening, and a new dawn is already brewing. The night wind came in through the cracks in the studio window, mixed with the low whistle of police sirens in the distance, like the pulse of the city accelerating. Liu Wei put down the beer glass, with the coolness of the foam still lingering on the rim. He looked at the round face of the fat policeman, with a rare seriousness in his eyes. Officer, tonight's arrest warrant is the final blow? Where are the mayor's remnants? The lawyers are still making a fuss behind them. Don't let them overturn the situation. The fat policeman lit a cigarette and blew out a mouthful of white mist. The smell of smoke lingered in the light. Boy, don't worry. The provincial investigation team flew in this morning and brought an expert team. The mayor's overseas account was frozen, and the Swiss bank cooperated, all because of your USB flash drive. The remaining two parties, tonight, we will raid the hiding place in the suburbs. You will take the lead, and the witness Xiaolan will identify it. The public trial will be next week, but after catching them tonight, the case will be solid. The mayor, that old fox, still wanted to beg for mercy in prison and said, Detective Liu, let's talk in private. No matter what, justice must be made public. Xiaolan smiled, raised her head from the tablet, and still tapped her fingers on the keyboard. Public? That's my specialty. The follow-up report that was just released, the last corner of the shady story, the hiding place of the mayor's remnant party, the warehouse pointed out by the informant, has been hotly discussed on the internet. Citizens left a message, Hero Liu Wei, catch them all. My reporting, starting with Congressman Li's case, has now shocked the country, and I have won the Independent Journalist Award. She came closer to Liu Wei, lightly touching his with her shoulder, with a teasing tenderness in her eyes. "Detective, you have become a big star along the way. You used to hide in the dark, but now the flashlights are chasing you." Liu Wei rubbed his brows and smiled. "Lan, don't make fun of me. Jing, what about you? After tonight's action, you can return to your normal life. I will help you clean up your uncle's old house, and find a stable job as a clerk recommended by the police station." Jing's eyes lit up, with tears in her eyes. She held Liu Wei's hand tightly, her palms warm. "Brother Liu, thank you. From witnessing that night in the alley to testifying now, I thought I would always hide in the shadows. But your teen made me brave. Uncle's death is not in vain. I will live a good life and occasionally come to the studio to visit and be your intelligence girl." The three of them looked at each other and smiled, and the air was filled with the aroma of beer and unspoken understanding. At this moment, Liu Wei felt a warm current in his heart. From a weak young detective to the current leader, he felt that the childhood rift in his heart had finally healed. The night was dark, and the iron doors of suburban warehouses shone coldly under the police lights. Liu Wei sneaked closer with his team, his footsteps made a fine crunching sound on the gravel, and the air was filled with the smell of engine oil and damp mold. Xiaolan followed, her face pale but determined. "Detective Liu, this is it. I was imprisoned by them. The leader of the remaining party is called Ahu, the second in command of the Black Wolf Gang, and he has the final burn list." Liu Wei nodded and pressed the earpiece. "Fat officer, surround the back door. I'll attack the main entrance." Gunfire erupted, and Ahu's roar came from inside. "Who?" The mayor said. "Burn everything tonight and run away." Liu Wei slammed the iron door and broke into the warehouse. The fire was flashing inside. 2 remaining gangsters were stuffing documents into the shredder. Ahu turned around with a gun in his hand, his eyes as fierce as a wolf. "Boy, it's you again. The USB drive is destroyed, we have backup." A scuffle broke out, bullets grazing the cargo boxes and sawdust flying like rain. Liu Wei rolled to the ground to avoid a shot, and the golden fingers in his mind were flying. Ahu had an old injury on his left shoulder, and his movements were half a beat slow. He stood up, kicked over the cargo box, and hit Ahu's leg. The guy knelt down and the gun flew down. "Damn it." The mayor's plan. Liu Wei stepped forward, cuffed his wrists, and said in a calm but oppressive voice, "The plan? The tale of the shadow plan is all here. I copied the burned documents last night." Xiaolan recognized the person. Xiaolan stepped forward and pointed at Ahu. "It's him. He forced me to change the fund records and transfer money to the mayor. He burned 3 copies of the cleaning list, but the electronic version is in your USB flash drive." Ahu's defense collapsed, sweat dripping down his beard. "I'll do it. The mayor is the mastermind, Old Man Wang plans it, and we execute it." The final reversal? The governor's shadow. No, the mayor said it was a fake, and he carried it alone. The rest of the party is dead, spare your life. The fat police officers led a team in and handcuffed the remaining gangsters. The firelight in the warehouse reflected on Liu Wei's face. He took a breath and felt a surge of relief in his heart. This is the final arrest, the mastermind's remnants are cleared, the shady curtain is torn apart like a sharp blade, and the darkness of power has nowhere to hide. When the siren went away, Xiaolan held Liu Wei's hand. "Detective, thank you. You not only saved the case, but also saved my life." On the day of the public trial, there was a sea of people outside the court, the sun was glaring, and the air was filled with the smell of sweat and banner ink. Citizens chanted thunder of justice, media gathered, and Xiaolan's live broadcast broke records. She stood in the audience, holding the microphone tightly. "Everyone, this is a historical moment. Detective Liu Wei's reasoning, from bullet casings to USB flash drives, uncovers the political shady story. The mayor's shadow plan has fully exposed a series of assassinations and a money laundering network, with ironclad evidence." In the court, the mayor was escorted to the bench, his face as gray as a withered leaf. Old Man Wang gasped and leaned back on his chair. Director Zhao lowered his head and said nothing. As a witness, Yang's voice was trembling but sincere. "Your Honor, I regret it. From the assistant to the executor, it's all the mayor's bureau. Commutation of sentence? Whatever, I just want atonement. I will always be sorry for Counselor Li's death. Liu Wei stood on the stage with a sonorous voice, replaying the whole case in his mind. Your Honor, this is not a single assassination, but a systematic cleansing. From the shell casings in the blind area of the parking lot to the dismantling of the alibi, Yang's ball game synthesis, Zhao's airport illusion, and the mayor's dinner video, they are all gangster tricks. U-Disc fund flow, Switzerland transfers tens of millions, and the development project is a cover for money laundering. Old Wang's notes, Jing's witness video, Xiaolan's retraction, and Yang's confession, the whole chain is locked. The final reversal, the mayor's governor's shadow, was a smoke bomb. He took the lion's share, and the provincial department has found out that there is no involvement. This dark curtain is torn apart and justice comes. The defense lawyer stood up and spoke weakly, Plaintiff, this is conjecture. But Liu Wei interrupted, and the projector popped up new evidence, the confession recording of Ahu from the remaining party. The mayor alone is responsible, and the governor has nothing to do with it. It is all his power. The court was silent, and then the judge hammered, the defendant is guilty. The mayor has life in prison, Old Man Wang and Director Zhao have 20 years, Yong has 8 years in prison, and the Black Wolf Yudang has all been sentenced. Case closed. The whole place erupted, reporters swarmed, and Xiaolan's report thundered like thunder, shocked the society. The political shady collapse, justice wins. Her cell phone kept ringing with editor-in-chief invitations and award notifications. She hung up, ran to Liu Wei, and hugged his arm. Detective, we did it. My report, from exclusive clues to national hot discussion, shocked the society. Citizens' parades turned into celebrations, the political purge started, new congressmen took office, and there is no shady story. Liu Wei smiled and walked out of the court, the sun shining warmly on his body. Jing came up, changed into a bright dress, and smiled brightly. Brother Liu, I'm back to life. My uncle's old house is tidied up, and his new job is stable. Occasionally, I think about these days, like a dream. But you are my family. She hugged Liu Wei, then turned and left, her steps as light as the wind. Li Ming was waiting outside the court, with red and swollen eyes. He stepped forward and hugged Liu Wei. Viagra, you have got justice for me. From playing shuttlecock in the alley, my father must be smiling in the sky. Thank you, brother. Liu Wei patted him on the back, feeling warm in his heart. Mingzi, my childhood promise was worth it. My father's death and your father's injustice have been put to rest. I have grown from that hesitant boy to a mature detective. This case is my transformation. The fat policeman came over and saluted. Boy Liu, respect you. From weakness to victory, you have won the whole city. There is a seat in the police station waiting for you. Liu Wei shook his head and smiled. Officer, thank you. But I am still a private detective, be free. Power is dark, and I will continue to tear it apart. As the sun set, the three of them walked on the street. Xiaolan took Liu Wei's arm and said in a soft voice, Detective, the case is over. What about the future? My reporting career, your golden finger, our partners. Liu Wei stopped and looked into her eyes, with a hint of love in his heart, like a warm breeze blowing on his face. Lan, partner? More than that. From intelligence to heartbeat, along the way, you made me understand that after justice, there is warmth. In the future, we will tear apart the shady curtain together and watch the sunrise together. She smiled, rested her head on his shoulder, and waved from afar. Liu Wei raised his head and saw the city lights getting brighter. He thought to himself, from weakness to victory, this transformation is like a sharp blade, cutting through the darkness and reshaping himself. The victory of justice is not the end, but a new beginning. Their footsteps blend into the crowd, and the story is complete in satisfaction.